It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. We're going to watch Google all during the show because apparently they're having some massive network failures all over the world. We'll talk about what's coming up at WWDC tomorrow and the latest on GCHQ's plan to sneak into your group chats. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit This Week in Tech, episode 721, recorded Sunday, June 2nd, 2019. Google Plus is still up. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. Thinking about moving your data storage to the cloud? Wasabi is enterprise-class cloud storage at 1/5 the price of Amazon S3 and up to 6 times faster with no hidden fees for egress or API requests. Calculate your savings and try Wasabi with free unlimited storage for a month at wasabi.com. Code TWIT. And by Thousand Eyes. Companies that run in the cloud rely on Thousand Eyes. It's the place they go first to see, understand, and improve the digital experience of their cloud-based applications and services. Do the cloud right and improve services for your customers and employees today. Visit thousandeyes.com/twit. And by Eero. Never think about Wi-Fi again when you can have brilliant, hyper-fast, super simple Wi-Fi with Eero. Visit Eero.com/twit and get $100 off the Eero base unit 2-beacon package with 1 year of Eero Plus when you enter the code TWIT at checkout. And by LastPass, the #1 most preferred password manager. Just remember your master password, and LastPass remembers the rest. Visit LastPass.com/twit to learn more. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. The last day of the internet has arrived. Fortunately, all of you are in studio today. Thank goodness. Ian Thompson's here from the register.co.uk. He's news director, a news editor. What are you? News person.
I'm a man of all trades.
Manager.
You know?
Hello, Ian. Haven't seen you in ages.
I know. It's been a while, but always good fun to be back. And
you're reaching your half-century mark in a week, and you're going to the UK to celebrate.
Yes, I'm going to gorge out on haggis and black pudding and shortbreads and all the other things that you can't really get over here.
Jump up and down for Tottenham.
I'm more of a rugby bloke myself. But yes, I gather the streaker was quite fun.
I hear it was, yes, there was a streaker last night.
Branded streaker.
He had like something written across his ass, like.
It was. I think she had some kind of a thing. I remember the good old days when people just streaked because they were drunk and feeling stupid.
Yeah,
you know?
They had integrity in those days.
Exactly. It's all about marketing now.
I would do it, but they can't fit Canadian Tire on my butt, so I don't think it would work. Schmeizer's also here. Always a pleasure to have you, Lisa Schmeiser, editor, IT Pro Today. Always welcome. And my good friend from Austin, Texas, first met him at South by a couple of years ago, Wesley Faulkner. His new lower third is hire him. Wesley is a great guy, and is actually anyway. We won't say anymore.
Yes,
but it's great to have you.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Great to be
you.
back.
Yes,
second time in studio.
And I say the last day of the internet because unaccountably there's a bunch of red dots on the G Suite status dashboard right now. And if you go to Down Detector, which is kind of I've just learned not the best place to go to find out if something's down because it's scraping tweets.
It's not. It's doing slightly more than tweets.
It's not scientific. They have a Chrome extension too, but if you look at the big Google, the big population centers in the Northeast and the West Coast, some severe outages. Something's going on. Don't know if it's Google alone or Google's interconnect.
And it does seem to be bringing down an awful lot of services like Uber and that sort of thing, which rely on Google's backbone in order to work. So
this message is the only message we have right now from Google, and this was at about an hour ago. Our team is continuing to investigate this issue. We'll provide an update by 2:33, which is 5 minutes from right now, with more information about this problem. Thank you for your patience. They say we're experiencing high levels of network congestion in the eastern U.S., affecting multiple services in the cloud, G Suite, and YouTube. And that's how I learned of it, because many of our live stream watchers are watching on YouTube Live.
Yeah, exactly.
And the chat room started reporting this a couple of hours ago. They're saying, hey, you're down.
I want to give a shout out to an excellent piece that Gizmodo's Kashmir Hill did back in January. I cut Google out of my life. It screwed up everything.
Yeah.
And
that was a marvelous piece of journalism.
Oh, all of that was fantastic. The series is phenomenal.
It was brave.
But what she points out is, since Google is woven into the fabric of a lot of other third-party applications, that when she cuts out Google, she also cuts out her ability to navigate without maps.
Can't do anything.
She has Uber doesn't work anymore. And so if Google continues to go down like it's going down right now,
and
it's going to be a ripple. Airbnb
know,
photos don't load. New York Times articles don't load.
People will know by the time they hear the show probably what really happened. But what we don't know is if the other services going down are going down because they're using Google's OAuth or they're using some Google service for their backbone, or they're using something related to Google. You know, we're now in such an interconnected
it's so
world.
interwoven with each other that it's...
And this is the same time where Google's trying to consolidate their power with Nest and controlling all those services.
Nest is down, by the way. Somebody told me his thermostat doesn't know what the temperature is.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying. How do you know what the weather is?
This is why I don't have a smart home, to be honest with you. I mean, well, there's a couple reasons I don't have a smart home, but turning over control of my infrastructure to a company that I have to rely on to keep it running is up there, along with what are they doing with my data.
What would we do? What would life be like if Google were down for a week? I'm thinking back when I was a kid in 1965. The entire northeastern seaboard went dark for 13 hours. 30 million people without power. In fact,
wasn't there a spike in the birth rate about 9 months later? I seem to remember
but
that.
the death rate went up too. So.
Oh, well, okay. Balances out.
9 months later.
and there was a story about a kid who had a stick and he was hitting telephone poles and lights went out just when he hit one telephone pole, and he thought for years he caused it.
Still
Wasn't. It was an interconnect. It was a similar situation where it was an interconnect. But that was pretty bad. This isn't like the power going out. We still have lights. We have cameras. But I have to think there are people watching live who can't see us. We are using Google Docs for our show rundown, so we know what to... You're not, Wesley. You'll be the only guy who knows what's going on. The rest of us will be going, I don't know what's happening. So what if you didn't have Google Search for a week? What if you didn't have Google Docs? What if you couldn't log into anywhere? What if Uber didn't exist for a week because of it? That'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I think Amazon would be a lot worse though.
Yeah. No, because Amazon's also a cloud.
Yeah,
Amazon's
AWS,
it's the number one cloud service in the world right now.
Yeah, for all we know, Amazon's down and Google's just running on AWS. That would be ironic, wouldn't it? But
I feel like getting locked out of your consumer accounts would be less impactful than, again, some of the infrastructure, like again AWS or Google Cloud or all of the tools that Google has aimed at app developers. I think that's actually worse because that's a layer that you can't see or perceive and that you don't understand how it impacts you until it's gone.
I think also we've got a slight advantage in that we're all of an age where we got around without the internet. We know how to read a map. We know how to, and I do worry with...
I couldn't get anywhere if I didn't have GPS.
Oh,
I just sit in the middle of the road.
You managed it perfectly well before GPS.
I know. I know, but I don't know. I don't know. Where do I turn? Lisa and I are driving down the highway, arguing over whether the GPS says to turn at the next one or not. Nobody's thinking, well, what does the sign say?
Yeah, but you see, even with then, it's just like I'll be giving my wife directions to go turn right. No, not that right, the other right, and then you realize, it's me. But
So I don't know if this is related, but I do remember in 2014, August 12th, 2014, much of the internet went down because of something called 512K Day. And there has been some concern that
we're getting close
768K Day should happen soon. In fact, it might have happened today. This is a weird problem. 512K Day, AT&T, British Telecom, Comcast, Sprint, and Verizon all went down because their BGP router tables could only accommodate 512,000 addresses. As soon as there were more than that, crash. This is the same problem. These are older routers, I would guess, 768K limit. And and by the way, you can check, there's a Twitter account that we could check, BGP4-table. It's only IP4 addresses. Currently, 778,915 IPv4 prefixes. So I'm wondering if maybe we hit that 768K limit.
And if anyone's going to hit it early, it's Google. So, it's...
I don't know. I mean, that's just an interesting
Yeah.
vulnerability I hadn't really even known about.
I got to a huge argument earlier this week with someone who insisted that the Y2K problem had been a complete fudge and it was just to give computer programmers jobs, and it nearly came to blows. It was just like, look, idiot. It's just
No.
The reason it wasn't a bigger problem is because
everyone pulled the
got all the
stops out.
COBOL programmers off the golf course and went to fix it.
Well,
my
that's
mom programs in COBOL.
it's a good skill to
Come
have
from
at the
good
moment.
stock.
I do. I'm very lucky.
All her emails are in uppercase, but that's okay.
I'm concerned
You're
about
also not wrong about that.
bringing us back to tech. Tomorrow's WWDC.
Yes.
Right.
And Apple's doing a pivot to services. And this has got to have a cloud, I don't know, positive or negative about the announcement about them rolling out all the stuff and services and how everyone should rely on them. If the cloud is not reliable, if Google's not reliable, how will they adjust what they're going to present, saying that you can trust us? We're always there. I don't know how well that's going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, presumably they've got some fairly. I mean, they've built the enormous campus. They've built the presentation room. If they haven't built a decent, solid fiber link in there, then they've only themselves to blame. But it's a valid point, because the more we come to develop on these, we come to rely on these services, and the more the companies themselves come to rely on them as a service stream, these outages are going to become more and more expensive.
Yeah.
The question I have is, one of the reasons Apple's done as well as it has is for quite a while, and I want to say quite a while because I'm not sure this is the case recently, but for quite a while, they had a premium retail experience. I know that recently there have been a lot of
Are we saying
complaints.
overpriced with that?
Premium can mean so many things. No, but they were selling the idea of a premium retail experience. It was very high touch, very hands-on, and when you move to a services-based revenue stream, what I'm curious about is whether or not Apple's going to replicate this sort of high-touch experience that they've had with customers, or if they're going to go the same way that other services-based revenue streams have gone, where it's all, here is the FAQ. Feel free to guide yourself through the FAQ. Here is a chatbot you can talk to if the FAQ doesn't work. Here is the email address that you can send a frustrated email to. We may respond in 3 days. In the meantime, we're going to keep auto-charging your credit card $9.99 a month. Enjoy. I mean, this is something that I feel hasn't been adequately covered whenever any tech company says we're launching a services stream. Is what's your infrastructure for supporting customer relations on that? Because people are going to want something for their $9.99 a month. Or
Does
their $15
anybody
a month.
really run their own cloud 100%? I mean, I know for a long time Apple was using Microsoft's Azure.
Yeah.
And then they told folks that they were using S3 and Google Compute. I'm just looking at the current iOS security guide where this stuff seems to leak out. It looks like this is as of May of this year, last month. Apple does, in fact, use Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud Platform for some of its authentication.
I think the strength and diversity argument comes in here. If you can get your thing working on multiple
multi-cloud.
platforms,
Multi-homed cloud.
and then if you can always switch from one to the other, and if every major cloud provider goes down, then we're all buggered anyway.
Remember
so,
when they used to say the internet was designed to survive a nuclear attack? Nobody says that much anymore.
Well, actually,
Partly because I think it was apocryphal, right? It wasn't really.
Oh no! I interviewed what's his face, Roberts, about this because, well, I say interviewed. We were stuck in a taxi for an hour and we got talking.
Good way to interview somebody, yeah.
And yeah, they sold it to Congress on distributed computing, so that in the event of a nuclear war, if one hub gets taken down, it can route around it. And he said, yeah, no, that was honestly just what we told Congress to get funding, because any idiot would know that if you detonate a nuclear bomb, the EMP is going to knock out vast swathes of infrastructure.
You can't
it's going to
route
go
around
anyway.
a giant
but
hole in
really
Pittsburgh.
sold it to Congress.
Yeah.
And they heard this and were just like, yep, okay, we'll give you the funds to do that.
It does. The internet does route around damage.
Oh, it does,
right?
yeah, but you can't route around a nuclear war.
There are limits to the scope of the damage it can route around.
So, but yet, even saying the internet routes around damage, you could see things like Google just go down. Why isn't it? It's not routing around whatever is going on right now. Yeah.
I think Google's just such a monolith. These large cloud services are so monolithic that it's kind of like was it the 1990 telephone exchange that went down, the AT&T outage that went out? Just somebody installing a standard upgrade which caused a feedback loop and spread throughout the entire network. If something like that can take out a major cloud or a major telco's network, you've got to have diversity in there, because otherwise you're wide open to losing everything.
Meanwhile, red dots on Gmail, Calendar, Drive, Docs, Sheets, Slides, Sites, Groups.
Google Plus is up.
Google Plus is up.
All 10 people were.
Google Plus is up.
You're a great optimist.
Cloud search
Literally
is up.
tens of
Keep
people
tabs.
happy.
Preview launches a premium collaboration tool for enterprise customers.
That's a lot of red dots on the Google status board. And they said they would let us know by 2:33.
It's just lucky this is a Sunday this is happening. Not a Monday.
No.
Well, can you imagine the howls if this were a Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the outages mailing list is going absolutely nuts at the moment looking at this. They're just like...
I did hear...
Well, it points out the physical limitations of the cloud.
I did hear a lot
you
of
just
people-
talked about how the fact is that we haven't had it roll. It's not as if one data center went down and the rest of Google's infrastructure said we're picking up the slack until we can fix it. It's gone widespread, which means that someone at Google is going to have a lot of explaining to do after they fix this.
Oh, their weekend is toast.
Well, actually, I heard
Do they even have weekends in that culture?
Well, I wouldn't have thought so, no.
Yeah.
It's just like you stagger people, but given the state of Google's contracting workforce at the moment, it's just like, well, you're going to have to pay me a bit more to get me out of bed.
Do you think? I think people aren't going to say to Apple tomorrow, "Oh, well, Google was down. Now you're down.
No.
Now you're. Why are you going to services?" I don't think people pay that much attention.
No.
To it.
Well, there's a big difference between what tech journalists tend to pay attention to versus
Yeah, I'm
what-
looking at the New York Times tech section. Not one word about it right now.
No.
You've got to understand, it's Sunday. Some of us need days off as well. You know? It's just like... It's like every time Facebook has some really bad news, they drop it at 5 p.m. on a Friday afternoon. Because back in the days of print, that used to be a good way to kill a story because no one read the Saturday newspapers. What it does these days is piss off an enormous amount of tech journalists who are just like, right, that's tomorrow's.
Well, there is no weekly news cycle anymore. At this point, you would even say there might not even be a daily news cycle. It's almost quarter daily in some ways.
Unless the news drops, around about Hawaiian time, then someone's going to be reporting it somewhere, be it in US, China, UK, whatever.
Meanwhile, there's a big red dot over the United States, and
if we all have to start staying up until 9 p.m. Honolulu time to find out what's going on in the world, I'm going to be very cross with you for planting that suggestion, Ian.
I'm not a morning person myself, so no.
Let's just check.
It does look like a measles outbreak at the moment.
It does, doesn't it? Let's just check Apple's system status. Actually, some yellows on here, which mean issues. Doesn't look like Apple offers a red dot, only green or yellow. So
yeah, well, that would be bad PR. So
they're actually. I'm wondering now if it's more than Google. Documents in the cloud issue, iCloud backup issue, iCloud
iMessage issues,
iMessage issue. So let's just check. Let's click on that link and see. Less than 1% of users affected. That's not so significant. So.
All my O's.
Although Apple, it's fewer than 1%, I believe, but okay.
Okay, hang on. All I think linked Gmail accounts are down on iOS.
So this is interesting. We'll
Outlook
watch
on
this.
iOS.
We'll continue to watch it. We do want to talk a little bit about WWDC. It's tomorrow, Apple's big event. They cleared the boards by ending our long national nightmare. After 4 years of waiting, the new iPod Touch is finally here.
Who says Apple has run out of ideas?
That's
It's like a 4-year-old
innovation,
platform
my
and put a
keister.
faster processor in it.
They shipped a new MacBook Pro as well.
Actually, before we move on, I just want to show you one quick
Karsten,
thing.
look at those. What do those spikes
This
mean?
is down detector. The spike means
These are people complaining about Vimeo,
complaining about
Verizon,
things being
AT&T, Crunchyroll, Shopify, Discord,
I love how
Comcast.
Comcast is like a
Oh
mountain
my God,
range,
Pokemon
but,
Go is down. Instagram, YouTube. So those are tweets complaining about service outages.
Yes.
CenturyLink, Cox, EA. Seems to be
not
either.
Twitch.
I think people are just.
Twitch and Comcast look like mountain
I like
ranges.
how
They're up
Reddit
and down
keeps
the whole
going
time.
though. Reddit is just fine.
This is why you don't use Twitter to find out how things are going.
Do you know when you go on a website and you wait for the ad slow and it slows down with AdWords being down? I'm guessing the whole entire web
my
is
God.
Ooh, that's a good
advertising
point.
infrastructure,
Yeah.
even Mint, Tinder, but
Tinder looks like it's got a fraught relationship.
Apple Store.
With,
Well, also, I mean,
Last
so
FM.
Saturday night was prime Tinder time, so, it's...
Tinder.
not Uber Eats.
Hey, but Google Plus is still.
Postmates. Oh God, what will people do for food?
Literally tens of people overjoyed.
Now, is this
it.
volume from people who can't get on Google and so they go on these
These are
other
rel-
services?
these are-
This is number of complaints.
Yeah.
Twitter complaints. A lot of services. Etsy,
Yeah.
Blogger. That's a Google service, of course. Even Wix, which is not. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, well,
that's scary.
Karsten, break in anytime.
Someone's just commented on the boards. Usenet's still up, you know.
Maybe
bravo.
Usenet is that part of the internet. Usenet is that part of the internet that will survive the nuclear.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel like it's more than Google, but I don't know.
No,
Like there's something
maybe.
else going on.
Maybe Google is just that thoroughly enmeshed with everything else at this point.
Something is going seriously weird.
My contention is this will be the last iPod ever. You can salute it as it sails off into the sunset. Why would they waited 4 years to update it? They updated it with the A10 processor, which is the same processor in an iPhone 7, a 3-year-old iPhone.
And they're just $400 for it.
They want $400 for something that is obsolete as hell. I mean, look at the bezels on that thing. 4-inch screen, home button, no fingerprint, no Face ID.
Yeah.
Why did they even bother?
It's the Cupertino idiot tax. You know, it's like if you package something up in a pretty enough way, a certain section of people will buy it no matter what. This is largely Apple's business model at the moment. They've given up on innovation.
Well, some have said if Apple's doubling down on services, it's important to have a low-cost service device. But low-cost, that's $400. You could buy an iPad for $329.
Yeah.
Question is, did this miss the iPad Mini rollout? Remember that week of everything?
That was really good, yeah.
Everything was coming out.
I think you can get an iPod Touch for $299.
I would have. Oh, you can get, but I mean...
But that's 32 gigs of storage. $199.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 32 gigs of storage.
But it's
so
still...
$200 is still cheaper than an iPad.
I'm trying to figure out what the use case is for it.
I'll tell you what the key use case is if you want to punish a child.
Okay. All right.
You know, a slipper is a lot easier and cheaper.
I want an iPhone. I want an iPhone. Here it is.
Here it is. Watch your dreams crumble and die, child.
Well, you mentioned that, and yet among since I now know a lot of knee-biters and their families by virtue of having one of my own, and typically what happens is the parents pass down their old phones to their kids. And
that's my contention first of all...
they limit the capability sharply so that the kid can't.
You just take the SIM card out of an iPhone, you've got it.
But that's what all of my daughter's friends have now is their quote-unquote their iPhones, which are basically tiny devices that can hop onto Wi-Fi to FaceTime
How old is your daughter?
She's 8.
So I'm thinking 9 or 10, you're going to give the kid a phone because it's a convenience for parents. Because you want to be able to have the kid call you if there's an emergency or if they're picked up.
There are devices that they have marketed at that age group where it's a communications device.
What do you want to punish
done actually
your child?
No, but I have misgivings about letting them onto the wider internet or to communicate via social media.
Because they're going to get a lot of
chats.
robocalls, but you just teach them not to answer.
It's actually human
they
interaction.
Can't have
I want them to get a little bit more fluent in human interaction and what's okay and what's not before I give them a device that launches them into the world like that.
You can lock it down. I mean, you could make sure they don't install apps. They don't have Snapchat on there. Yeah. I just feel like parents more and more want their younger children to have phone access.
They want to be able to reach them in some way.
Right.
But there's actually a kid in our scout troop who has like a wrist communicate. It's like Star Trek. It's a wrist thing where they can punch a button to.
The only problem is I've done a couple of stories on those in the last 6 months or so. The security on them sucks badly.
That kid will have a phone in 6 months. I'm promising you. All it takes is one missed pickup.
I'm also concerned about how those kids are being tracked or what kind of data the places that make these devices or offer these services, because. I've sat in on product meetings where basically the minute you mention, it's a service for parents and kids, like the dollar signs start pulsing in people's eyes because they're like, ooh, I can track their data and monetize this, and there's no reasonable expectation of privacy or data integrity. So.
Well, also, I mean, they're keen to get into it. What's the old Jesuit adage? Give me a child until the age of 7, and then he's mine for life.
Yeah.
Father Robert never said that.
No. I know, but he's actually...
In fact, if he had, I would have fired his ass so fast.
This is the confusing thing about Father Robert, though, because he's like, he is this Jesuit priest. You think,
and he loves
I
technology.
should disagree with you, but you make so much sense.
Oh, no, he's a sweetheart. The Jesuits are, oddly enough, the most educated of the bunch, right? They believe in evolution.
It was a Jesuit that came up with the Big Bang.
Yeah.
So,
Keep in mind that these do not have Qualcomm radios in it. Yeah. And this was developed during the dispute, so I don't know if this was some sort of test to see how it goes.
But Wesley, do you think there will ever be another iPod after this?
No.
And the thing is, 4 years from now, when it's clear they're not going to update it, what are we going to do? This is the time we should say, thank you, iPod. We had a great run. Yeah. The first iPod came out, about 2001, as I remember? So it's been almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Actually, you give me an idea then. I don't think this is going to be the last iPod. There's no way Apple is going to miss up a marketing opportunity like that. They will do the final edition iPod.
The
You'll be able to
20th
buy
anniversary
it in gold
edition?
encrusted with little crystals.
A 20th anniversary. Yeah, they're basically the opposite of MTV, which likes to pretend history doesn't exist.
So 2021, look for the last iPod.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be like those retro consoles that come out. Like they'll kill it and they'll bring it back.
Oh,
and
with
let
the,
it
with
run.
the dial
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
My
click
boss
wheel?
has just bought one of these tiny PlayStation replicas, which is preloaded with like sort of 8 PlayStation
He's going to
games.
regret it. He should have ordered the Playdate. I don't think you can order this yet.
Playdate?
Oh, you don't know about this? We've talked about this last week. This is a kind of retro gaming device. Looks like a little bit like a Game Boy with a black and white e-ink screen and a crank. And
Wait, just the
it's
crank?
being developed by Panic, who does the best-known Apple FTP program. Transmit also does some other useful tools like Coda. And they're going to ship this.
So does that actually power it up, or is it a games playing
No, it's
device?
a game.
It's,
Oh,
a,
I'm so
it's an input
disappointed.
device
I
for
thought the
them.
crank would
No,
power it
you-
up.
yeah, I
like,
used to have-
like
I-
those emergency
yeah,
radios
I've
or
got a
flashlights.
quote-
No,
yeah, I've got a
I know.
couple
That
of
seems
power
like
I
a
have one
sensible
each in
use
my
for it.
earthquake kit. And
Yeah.
The idea of the crank. Let me see if I can get autoplay working. I guess I'm. Is you see you crank it. This little guy's running across the screen. The crank could control it. Here, let's just crank. Damn it. Okay, never mind. But there we go. See the crank could. The crank could control it.
Oh, good grief.
You know,
Yeah.
I say every time I come on this show, I always end up saying this, but I really feel like we're moving to a post-keyboard user interface, and this more or less confirms that kids coming up through this technology now are going to kind of expect full-body haptic.
why doesn't my iPod Touch have a crank? It should have a crank, Daddy.
Yeah, in an
Please.
English accent that can be badly misheard. But yeah.
You're a crank, Daddy. Anyway, that's going to be $150. It comes with a game a week for 12 weeks. And
So 150 American dollars and 12 games, and then you have to pay more for more games? Is that it?
Or just becomes a dead device.
12
or-
games should be enough for anybody. No, they're encouraging people to write more games. Brianna Wu was on last week, said she couldn't wait to get one because she wants to. It uses Lua, and she wants to write some games in Lua.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why I keep giving them a plug for that, except that at $50 less than an iPod Touch, I think it seems like a more desirable device. I'm just saying. Anyway, let's talk about WWDC in a bit. Fun panel today. I'm not going to get a word in edgewise because we've got Ian Thompson here, Lisa Schmeiser, Wesley Faulkner. We are talking about the week's tech news. Also a great audience, by the way. I guess a lot of people in town for WWDC. We've got people from all over the world, from London, Israel, even Cincinnati and San Jose. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Our show today brought to you by a cloud service. I'm thinking they
I
probably...
was going to say, well, I'm not going to check if they're up or not.
check if they're up. Go ahead. Wasabi.com. I guarantee you they're up. Wasabi is hot cloud storage. They've rethinking the whole idea of what cloud storage could be. It comes to us from David Friend and Jeff Flowers. I've known David for a long time. They've come up with a way to save 80% on your cloud storage costs, to increase the speed 600%, uses the same S3 API you're used to, but costs a lot less. Plus, there's free egress. They never charge you for egress. Maybe you should be thinking about Wasabi. It's just as secure, actually probably more secure than on-premises storage. HIPAA compliant, FINRA compliant, CJIS compliant. Very, very reliable and very affordable. I love this immutable storage idea. This is such a brilliant idea. You can designate some of your data, or all of your data if you want, untouchable. This is what you need in this day of an age of ransomware or fumble-fingered employees. That data can't be changed. Move stuff up to the cloud where it'll be safe forever. Never have to worry about getting charged for egress or API access. And are you ready for durability? 11 nines. 11 nines. 80% cheaper, 6 times faster, 11 nines of durability, immutable storage, redundant data centers, and they're up right now. Maybe this is a good time to go to wasabi.com. They have a free 1-month unlimited storage trial for TWIT listeners. You have to click the free trial link and use the offer code TWIT to get that. wasabi.com. Please use that offer code. Let them know you saw it here. I am really a fan of these guys. I've known them for years, and I know they're doing something really exciting. And I just want the world to know. I want I know you're going to have 3 names on your list. I want you to add Wasabi to that list, wasabi.com, and you could try it out. Unlimited storage with the offer code TWIT for the first month. Boy, let's just check the Google.
I was going to say, this is exactly the time to be promoting smaller cloud providers.
I think Wasabi might have a real opportunity here. Yeah, that big red dot's getting bigger.
Oh, wait, they're up in Toronto now, too.
Yeah, Canada's been suffering as well. Looks like South Detroit. So it's
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg. I think this is honestly an artifact of the way down detector works because it's all urban areas. But clearly there's an issue. If we go to the Google status board, let's just refresh that. Still red dots next to almost everything except Google+. And now Google said that they were going to tell us something. They so far no word about what's going on.
There must be deluge with people going, have you tried turning it off and on again?
It's an interesting story. And some severe outages all over the world right now. But we don't know why. And we don't know if it's just Google, to be honest. I know, as we said, system issues with Apple as well. WWDC is tomorrow. Apple will announce all these great new online services you won't be able to use. They'll also announce, we think, iOS 13.
Yeah, with exciting new volume control.
I wonder. Yeah, and dark mode. That's where everybody gets excited. Dark mode. Aren't you
and
excited?
mouse support.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. You think they will offer iPad Pro mouse support?
I mean, it's rumored. I have to say, the first time I was on this show, I think I said that it's going to the new iPad Pro is going to be the platform for their next merged OS.
I agree
and
with
this
you.
is moving closer and closer to that being a reality. They said, I mean, and the rumors is that it's for accessibility, but when you have keyboard support supported, mouse support supported, merged apps on the desktop.
Yeah, Marzipan will let you put your iOS apps on the desktop sometime soon.
And so, and
It's
you
the
can use it
beginning
as a second display, possibly, right? So,
yeah.
And you know what hastened this, in my opinion, is the failure of Intel to provide Apple with the chips they needed. Apple's that just made Apple think even harder about moving to their own chips. That's what they're doing on iOS. They're having great success with the chip development there. That A12X Bionic is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, also, they're going to be buying up a lot of Intel's IP in the modem area. And
because Intel's getting out of the 5G
exactly.
modem.
So I think what the feedback we're getting at the moment is that Apple settled with Qualcomm, signed a 5-year deal. Intel's getting out of the business. Apple buys Intel's IP. That gives them a 5-year start to start developing their own kit so they can own the entire supply chain all the way down the line.
Intel did say, interestingly, that their decision to get out of 5G did not predate the Qualcomm announcement. Once they heard the Qualcomm announcement, they basically said, let's get out of this business.
Well, I mean, this is the
Apple, I think we even heard this in a previous lawsuit. Apple actively forced Intel. They pressured Intel to do 5G modems because they wanted to get out from under Qualcomm. Once that was settled, Intel said, all right, you take it. And but I wonder what the future is about Intel right now. I mean, I feel bad for Intel.
They're a one-trick pony at the moment.
Yeah, AMD's eating their lunch left and right.
So they're getting eaten on the server side, on the desktop side. They no longer have a mobile play of any kind.
They've still got 97% of the data center market. But they've said that, I mean, Brian Krasnick, before he was forced out, already said, we'll be happy if we can keep, 80%.
What are the critical features of a data?
Confidence in there.
Well, what are the critical features of a data center? Low power, distributed computing, the ability to run multiple threads on a single processor without Spectre and Meltdown, right? So that's security. ARM seems like it could make an offer. Linus Torvalds said one of the problems with developing ARM software for Linux and ARM for Linux is that most of the time when you're running in the cloud, you're going to running on x86. So, but that's interesting. Maybe you won't be. Maybe you will be running on ARM in the cloud in the future. Maybe the whole future is ARM, from Apple on down.
ARM has a problem still scaling out. They're scaling up, but they can't scale out right now. So multiple cores on the same motherboard is still a problem right now. So they have to fix the interconnect problem before they can actually really run super efficiently in the data center.
Are they working on that, you think?
I'm guessing. I mean, keep in mind also AMD has an ARM license. So a variant could be coming from them of like a low power server.
Yeah, I mean, Intel's got the grunt, but that's really about it. And they've really sort of dropped the ball. I think they've had cobalt problems with the manufacturing process and getting down to 7 nanometers. And everyone else is so far ahead of them now that all they've got to rely on is the x86 market, which is... It's a reliable, money spinner, but they're going to lose
And they're still
share.
spending a lot of money in the graphics business too, trying to see if they can.
And their AI chip is a joke.
Yeah.
So, it's just... but some of these chips are obscenely expensive. When you're talking 20 grand for a single processor, that's...
Yeah.
I can't see that as a sustainable business model. It's just kind of like Apple and an iPhone pricing.
I think this is overall going to be a good thing for Intel. It's going to make them stop.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Because I think they've spread themselves way too thin trying to do all these things.
Well, I do remember the last time Intel was really challenged by AMD, they were able to come back. They went to the Israeli skunk works they had and said, what do you got, guys? Because x86 is, this... We got to keep x86 going. This Titanium project ain't working so well.
Yeah.
Oh, the Optron. Optron was eating their lunch.
Yeah. And so they were able to, fortunately, find an x86 architecture that worked for them, and they came back.
And they started. That's when TikTok really, they started really pushing hard on that.
So they have responded well to that kind of pressure.
I think they do, and they have enough cash to be able to say, let's scrap whatever we have and start over. And they could still, not start over, of course, but they could still, they probably have.
You could make the argument, Gray Raven in our chat room is, though, that Intel makes the best possible buggy whips.
That's a very good analogy. I might have to steal that, in fact.
They are buggy. They are buggy.
And that maybe the age of the buggy whip is over.
Yeah.
Except for a very small specialist market where you can charge $20,000 for a buggy whip.
Yeah. I have to think that ARM, if they can solve these issues like the interconnect issues, are going to be able to take over.
Well, also,
and you got to admire Apple, who has, it's not just ARM. They have an ARM architecture license, but they bought PA RISC. They have literally thousands of chip designers working under that roof. They want to make every chip that goes in there.
They want to be vertically integrated.
Yeah.
That's their goal. It always has been their goal.
Yeah. So
it feels like the execution's a lot smoother under Tim Cook, but this is a guy who made his
chain guy.
This is the guy who made his bones on supply chains and ensuring that the trains are.
And then the elephant in the room is what's going to happen with the domestic Chinese market when it comes to developing their own silicon, because with the ongoing trade war at the moment, they're really ramping up spending in. We need our own. We need to be processor independent.
I don't want to laugh, but remember that Foxconn, which of course is suffering a lot of tariffs. Because of the trade war we're having with China. So they moved a number of their factories to Mexico.
Yeah.
And now, of course, trade war with Mexico. And now, I don't know, what's interesting is none of these companies ever think about moving their factories to the U.S.
Actually, Foxconn's supposed to go in Wisconsin. Remember?
No, they're not.
No, they're not. Do you really want to
fell
bring
for
up
that too, huh?
Have you seen the local reporter who's been going around sort of, being banned from the Foxconn campus because he keeps on finding these empty offices with tape over the windows?
How much money did they get from Wisconsin? Like $60 billion?
It was the equivalent to, I think, about $500,000 per job under the original specs, but they've since cut down the number of jobs, so that's gone up somewhat.
I think it was $6 billion.
Yeah. And
the reporter John DeZaza from The Verge.
Yeah, that was some lovely reporting.
He went around looking. This is all he found in Wisconsin was a model of a Foxconn plant. Last summer, Foxconn announced a barrage of new projects in Wisconsin, so we went looking for them. Subsidy package of $4.5 billion.
Yeah, and then they went to say it was going to be LCD panels, and then no, we can't do that. No, absolutely, we will do LCD panels after a call from Trump.
So
people say a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is.
Yeah, but when we as taxpayers are paying for these people,
well, this is the thing: is if you're a person who lives in Wisconsin, you should be incandescent with rage over the fact that this is revenue that could have gone towards bolstering your school systems or your roads or mitigating the effects of more severe weather. And instead, what's happening is a multinational corporation based outside the U.S. is reaping the benefits of your tax dollars.
It's
so.
But they have a new governor, so things could be changing. A lot of women got elected to state assembly. Shout out to Jody Emerson.
There you go.
There are tons of changes that could hopefully restructure this deal so taxpayers aren't going to be out that whole sum.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminds me of the sort of Hunger Games thing that Amazon paid for their headquarters, and it was just like, bend over and show us how far you will go before we will deign to come to your city. It's like,
dance for us, monkeys.
Exactly, dance for us, monkey boys. It's just, this is the richest company in the world, and they're demanding subsidies.
It was so clever of them to just collect all of this data on all of these cities, because now they can take a look at secondary and tertiary lines of business, and they already know, hey, if we want to set up something that has to do with industrial IoT, these are the cities that have the best talent bases and already have existing third-party vendors where we can poach their talent. If they're currently planning on building out and hiring out in Kentucky, which is where FedEx is located, so there's going to be a big battle of talent there, since FedEx and UPS both have huge presences in Kentucky, and that's a hub for a lot of shipping. I mean, Amazon now has data on how many cities?
Yeah. And they just give it up.
Northern Virginia always made sense, because that's how you service your government clients. There's all the federal cloud contracts
New York
that
to
come
an
out
extent,
there.
but yes.
New York made sense, and then Amazon's like, well, if you don't want us, we'll just take our ball and go home. And the truth is, it's not going to hurt them that much to leave the center of finance and fashion, because there are other parts of the world where they can get the same benefits and the same access to talent.
Yeah.
But there are other cities throughout the U.S. that have access to really specialized line of work, whether it's agriculture. For example, Illinois has Caterpillar. Their HQ is there. It's downstate from Chicago, but Amazon now has a lot of data on Chicago, so they can go back and...
It's not just that. They can use the data from other cities against the other data. Other cities were saying, we're getting a better deal, or they're...
it's like The Bachelor.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
I had my one-on-one date with Boston.
Yeah.
They offered me access to academics. What can you offer?
Yeah.
So at WWDC, one of the bingo slots you should reserve is the end of iTunes. Now, this is all rumor. We don't know what Apple's
fire.
going to announce.
iTunes was running on Google Cloud, so that's why.
It's already apparently over.
Before it went out.
Apple.
Do you remember when iTunes was good?
No.
When it first came out.
It was a 6-month period.
Hey, as a podcaster, we were very grateful when I wasn't.
But when the first couple of iterations of the software, it went around the office. And, okay, downside, everyone could see what your music collection was. And there was some pretty embarrassing apps on that one. Yeah. But it was actually a pretty good system. And then they jiggled about with it.
Feels like they just piled stuff onto the core.
But they do this with a lot of their apps, because their contacts app at this point, where you manage all of the people in your phone and, in theory, in your email address book. That's another thing where they just keep layering on cruft, and it's fundamentally unstable, and there are sync problems between all of your devices and or your accounts.
So this rumor wouldn't happen until Mac OS 10.15 comes out, which is probably in the fall, but we don't. It maybe not. I mean,
this is why I don't think it's going to be an announcement at the show, because then they're going to want to sort of ease us into this and sort of gradually degrade it.
Maybe they'll do the Mac OS update sooner, because it depends when they ship a Mac Pro. Yeah. Presumably, they would do it with the shipping of a Mac Pro.
Yeah.
They cleared the deck for other hardware with the MacBook Pro last week, the iPod Touch this week. So if there's going to be a hardware, the theory being, if there's going to be a hardware announcement, they want everybody to focus on it. And if it's anything, it's got to be a Mac Pro. I guess it could be an iMac Pro, but it's got to be a Mac Pro. They promised that 2 years ago.
You sure it's not just an updated Cube?
That would be depressing.
Yeah. The question is, with Intel missing their targets, will the Mac Pro miss its target?
Mac Pro traditionally runs Xeons.
Yep.
Is there a 7 nanometer Xeon? No, there's no.
Nope, not yet.
Probably not even a 10 nanometer Xeon. Yeah. But it's got a lot of cores. It's really a different beast not for you and me, but for people who want many, many threads for video rendering or 3D design, things like that. It's a professional machine. They have said all along it will be modular, which that was the problem with the last Mac Pro. By the way, the last Mac Pro was announced in 2013.
Oh, good
2013. They've been selling it to this day. You could still buy it. I don't know why you would.
Whole different world.
But they're, it may be too little too late for the pro community. They may have all moved to this, Dell Precision workstations. That's what we did for our video editors some years ago. But I think if we see it, if Apple doesn't say something about a new Mac Pro tomorrow, maybe not that it's shipping next month, but if they don't say something, I think that's the kiss of death for pros. And maybe you're right, Wesley, when you said Apple's moving to the iPad. They don't care.
And also, AMD already has their graphics business. So it would be a shocker if they saw that Intel was slipping and then they moved to the Ryzen processor for
Ryzen
the
and
pros.
Radeon, because they've never done NVIDIA. They like Radeons.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
That'd be a shocker.
Yeah.
I'm putting it out there first, so if in case it happens, you heard it from me.
You know that Wesley Buckner really knew what was going to go on. So that the only reason I bring that up is if they're going to get rid of iTunes, if they're not releasing a new Mac and a new Mac OS to go with it in the next couple of months, you're right. They're not going to say anything about iTunes yet.
But I think it is something they're gradually going to start sort of squeezing out and shutting down.
The rumors, and there are a lot of them, including Mark Gurman at Bloomberg, who's usually very accurate, are that they're going to make 3 new apps: music, video, podcasts. Some said that they were going to take iTunes and put it in a folder. But because you can't get rid of iTunes without completely replacing its functionality. People use it right now to back up their iOS devices. What are you going to do if you can't do that? Maybe music is just a rebranded iTunes.
You know what I really miss on iTunes is I miss the ability to go and rearrange all of my apps on my mobile devices. And I don't...
You can't do that in iTunes anymore?
No. You can drag and drop things on your phone or on your iPad.
At least it now remembers the arrangement when you move to a new phone. It used to be you had to redo it each time, right? That was a real pain in the butt.
But I liked being able to open up things on my computer screen
I
and
have to say,
organize them thusly.
I am so done with Apple. I am just, I feel like I'm overcharged, underserved. I think Mac OS is great for developers and designers and pros, but you put Linux on a good PC, and you certainly have many choices of PCs these days. You're going to get much of that same functionality. Maybe not for the designers and the videographers and the photographers. I don't know what they do. I guess they use Adobe on Windows.
What about a mobile-first ecosystem, though? Where do you think
that's
Apple
what Wesley's saying with iOS, right? And I have to say, Lightroom on iPad Pro is kind of a nice combination if you have Lightroom on a desktop.
Right, and you have that USB-C port also, so it's really awesome.
I mean, I come at this from a little bit more of an enterprise perspective since that's our core audience. But when I'm taking a look at the products and the markets that big guys like Microsoft and IBM and Google Cloud and and the rest and collaboration companies, they're all aiming for what they call first line workers now. These are people who are not traditional desk workers. They may be people who either are in industries like construction where they're on site, or they may be retail workers, or they're healthcare workers. And almost all of these companies to a person are pushing a model of computing that is mobile first, where a tablet is your primary computing interface. And so, we're sitting here talking about the Mac Pro, and it's kind of surreal to me because I'm like, that's almost a completely different direction than it seems like the money and the attention.
And if anybody knows that better, is Apple knows it better than anybody. They're the ones who sell it. They know the numbers.
Well, this is the weird thing is because I remember the first time I went to an Apple store and they did everything over an iPad. I'm like, oh, it's the future.
But it wasn't. It was this amazing hardware that had an antiquated operating system, iOS. So maybe if iOS 13 will be more.
But I really do feel like we may be moving to, as jobs get much more siloed in a lot of ways, we may be moving to a model where mobile computing works for significant percentages of a population, both on a personal and a vocational level. And the number of people who really need a desktop to do their job, that will stay steady or it will decline over time.
I think that works only as long as people are still working at desks, because the big failure of the tablet form factor is, well, no, I've tried various different tablets.
You can't do it in your lap.
I've got to, you can't do it on the train. It's you've got to, unless your fingers are up down there and people look, it's a very bad look.
What's really funny is the muscle memory, because I do take iPads to press conferences now, and I've got like an iPad keyboard. It's a lot easier for me to do it that way. And then when I move from an iPad keyboard back to a regular one, I always have like a few minutes of really disturbing typos.
There's still that.
But I've also seen reporters who now just have a pencil and an iPad Pro. Like they've got the digital pencil and iPad Pro.
Handwrite your stories from now on?
They do. No, Leo, they handwrite the notes and then they press a button and it's typed up. it's the future.
But then you've got to go through and edit it again. You know, it's kind of like it's one of those things that sounds great.
It's like the front page. Give me copy.
Oh my God! But
And you read the story.
I'm telling you, we have a lot of companies that are now pushing people towards a mobile-first computing model, and the question is whether or not it's going to hold.
I'll tell you who's not going to go mobile is developers who really need a keyboard to sit down. And honestly, you can't develop for all these great new apps for iOS unless you have a Macintosh that you could sit down at. If nothing else, if Apple even says, all right, photographers, bye-bye. All right, video editors, bye-bye. If they've got to have people writing software for iOS, maybe the thing to watch for tomorrow is an announcement that Xcode, their developing environment, moves to iOS. That would be
huge.
That's the day, right? When that happens.
But is the experience going to be?
I don't want to do it.
Yeah. That's a risky move because, like you said, the hardware hasn't been there for so long, and if you pair that with a subpar software experience with something that just doesn't seem to quite get to where your old hardware you already have is not there.
Is that because we're old timers though? Because I agree with you. I feel like I want a keyboard. I want a nice keyboard. Apple's not doing that.
Right.
I want a nice screen. I want a big screen. Maybe I want multiple screens for development.
You need big screens.
But I also see, and whenever I use an iPad, I bet you feel the same way. I feel like I'm kind of compromising. I have to work extra hard to make it work okay.
You're forcing yourself into that paradigm that's not natural for that form factor.
Then I talk to young people who say, "Oh no, it's fine. I love it."
Yeah. Well, you're also talking about programming.
I don't know those people.
By the way, Google Plus is still up.
There's your show title. Google Plus is still up.
It is. And Google Cloud Search, everything else is not looking good as we look at the map of issues. And Google has yet, as far as I can tell,
no update.
Have they said anything?
No.
I'm waiting for. They promised us we'd know something, and it's just a bunch of red
This is
blobs.
really bad.
It's also spreading through Europe now. It's not getting better. It's getting worse.
How's Asia
It
looking?
actually looks like it might. Down Detector is having less complaints. It looks like it might have already spiked.
Ooh.
Or nobody can get online to complain.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
maybe
So
Twitter's down.
Australia. Just,
I would think if they have found some sort of mitigation and they're trying to remedy it, they would have posted an update.
Yeah.
If they had something somewhat positive, they would have said it.
So strange. So strange.
Yeah, that map does look. Yeah.
Back to WWDC. We may not be talking about WWDC at all tomorrow.
One thing we haven't talked about is the WatchOS.
All right, let's take a break and come back and talk about WatchOS. You're wearing an Apple Watch?
No, absolutely not.
You're wearing an Apple
I do
Watch?
wear an
Okay, I'm watching a Samsung Watch.
I
You
am
have
watch-free.
naked wrists.
Yes.
time is a
I'm
theoretical
shocked.
construct for Ian.
It's just like, as long as I've got a vague idea what's going on, and I don't really want to be told, oh, it's 10 to the hour, it's time to go up and,
Here is Google's statement. Thank you to Mike B in our chat room. Our engineering teams have completed the first phase of their mitigation work. Mitigation of what they haven't said, and we are currently implementing the second phase, after which we expect to return to regular service.
Right.
Okay, well, here you go.
I wonder what the first phase was, just going, we're all doomed.
And now it says, we'll let you know by 4 p.m. They aren't saying at all what's going on. That's really
This
interesting.
is really good news for Australians, though, because they're going to come into the office on Monday morning, not be able to do any work, and okay, break open the tinnies and let's go out and
Well, we invite
They've had
them-
this problem before when they pushed configuration changes that that screwed things up.
Yeah.
So it's probably not an external attack; it's probably an internal goof
Okay.
up.
Let's hope that's the case. I could tell you one thing they're doing right now, Google and all over the world, firing up Thousand Eyes to see what the hell is going on. Thousand Eyes is the way to see what's going on in the cloud. Everybody wants to move to the cloud, and then these things happen, and you're going, geez, what are we going to do? And the problem, I think any cloud engineer will tell you, you can know everything there is to know about your infrastructure, the stuff on premises, the stuff you own. But the minute you go out to that puffy little thing, that's why it's a puffy cloud on all the diagrams. It's a black box. Your data goes in, it doesn't come out. What's going on? You don't know. And that can mean you lose control of your cloud app or your service. Your customers are hollering at you. You're scrambling to find the root cause. You're losing revenue. Employee productivity is going down. Your brand may even be damaged. What if you could see into that cloud? What if, like a squeegee cleaning a dirty window, you could suddenly see the entire service delivery path from the cloud right to your end user, including all the stuff you don't own, you don't control, down to the local coffee shop? That's Thousand Eyes. An amazing story. Thousand Eyes was created at UCLA and immediately received funding because these guys had something that no one else could do. They put sensors everywhere on the internet. More than 1,000 eyes. They should really call themselves Million Eyes. A massive array of vantage points on spanning the global internet, cloud providers, local Wi-Fi. This isn't old school IT monitoring, which is passive and siloed. This is unique. You get a path visualization technology that extends beyond any boundaries. Suddenly you can see, you can understand, and you can fix the experience for all your apps, all your services and websites. If you don't have Thousand Eyes, today is exactly why you need Thousand Eyes. Regain control, ensure the best possible digital experience for you, your customers, your employees. Make sure you're in the right cloud. Thousand Eyes has some great white papers on clouds and how they work and how multi-home clouds can be a good thing or a bad thing, how you can connect to the right SaaS instance, and how you can see issues before they impact your customers and employees. Top banks, enterprises, SaaS companies, the world's largest and fastest growing brands rely on Thousand Eyes to do the cloud and do it right. You should too. ThousandEyes.com/twit. See what you've been missing. You'll get the exclusive ebook. Actually, this is a good one for the boss. 5 cloud migration challenges you shouldn't ignore. Help the boss understand, because everybody wants to move to the cloud, but you've got to understand what you're getting into, and this will make it all clear. And then say to the boss, and by the way, boss, we need Thousand Eyes. Go to ThousandEyes.com/twit. Get that book. Find out more. ThousandEyes.com/twit. Thousand Eyes, thrive in a connected world. We thank them so much for supporting This Week in Tech. And we thank you for using that special address, because that helps us when you go to ThousandEyes.com/twit. Watch. Why are you so excited about the watch, Wesley? Why? What is exciting about the watch?
Healthcare. They're severing it from needing to have an iPhone, which means that they can give it to more people.
I didn't know that.
In the octogenarian category, so that they don't have to. They can just send them watches.
So I'm wearing. I didn't bring my phone, but I'm wearing a Galaxy S3 Frontier watch, which does go on the internet. It goes on the Wi-Fi, but its utility is definitely cut because it needs a phone to do the work, and the Apple Watch is even more so. Right. I mean, you could stand up, but other than that.
This has always been the big weakness for me in smartwatches, is that you've got to have
not
a
that
phone.
smart.
You had to be
you've got to have a phone with you, in which case, just use the phone.
Right.
They're sidecars. They're not motorcycles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, plus, okay, Apple did make a very pretty one, but the early Android, I tried out the early Android ones, and my wife nicknamed one the woman repeller. I mean, it was just this huge LG block on your wrist, and it was terrible looking things.
Yeah.
But on the healthcare thing,
Yeah, they're going to be selling them in bulk now, shipping them out to people.
I mean, I will say I swim, so the watch is handy for swimming in a way that the phone is not.
Right.
So
you can't bring the phone in the water.
No, you can't. And for things like kayaking, things like anything where water is involved, which admittedly is not a majority of people who use it for health-related things. I'm actually really interested with the Doses app that they are rumored to be coming out with that reminds you when to take your medication. Because again, like you said, that hits a market where as they can put it on their wrist and then bzz, it's time to take your afternoon pills, bzz, it's time to take your PM pills.
I hope it tells you where your pills are also.
So there's things like that. But yeah, I mean, I love my Apple Watch, but I will agree that a major weakness in the user experience is that it has to be coupled to a phone at all times.
There are rumored to be 3 new apps coming with watchOS 6. Again, we'll hear about this. Presumably, we'll hear about this tomorrow. You mentioned one Dose, which will... and by the way, if you have an iPhone now, it'll download automatically to your watch. You'll get it. There's also Cycles, which is a menstrual tracking app. By the way, Fitbit and Garmin already do that. Yeah.
And the store.
And then there'll be a story where that's going to be the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Separating the watch from the phone. If you can app download and install apps from the watch directly.
Absolutely.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. Calculator, voice memos, and books. You'll be able to buy books and listen to them on the watch. That's actually kind of cool. Right now I have to copy it. It's kind of laborious. Copy my audiobooks or music over to the watch. Then it'll play, but I have to make sure I do that before I leave home.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, Apple should double down on the watch. The watch is arguably a big part of any services it's going to offer. It's a big. They apparently make a lot of money on the watch. It's the best-selling watch, not just smartwatch, but selling watch out there.
And with its own store, it might actually also
another source
be
of revenue,
another source of revenue in terms of advertising.
And so we get to the point as the technology advances, it'll become coming back to what we were saying about kids and the iPod Touch.
They could just wear a watch.
Just give them a watch.
Yeah.
You know, you can't get. Well, you could get pornography on a watch, I guess, but you're not going to. You can lock it down.
Yeah.
It's really hard
Here's
to
the
watch.
downside to something like that. The thing is, and again, this, I feel like I have to keep caveating that I love my watch, but what I'm really uneasy about is I don't know what data it's recording regarding
let's
me,
talk about
or what gets sent back to Apple, or how that.
Remember Apple at CES this year bought a big
What happens on the
billboard
iPhone stays on the iPhone.
on the Marriott Hotel, ironically.
You notice they didn't put the subtext unless you're in China, in which case you're screwed.
Or unless you install any apps.
Yep.
Washington Post this week. It's the middle of the night. Do you know who your iPhone is talking to? Our privacy experiment showed 5,400 hidden app trackers guzzling our data in a single week. A lot of it in the middle of the night. This is Jeffrey Fowler writing. Lots of apps. Some of the apps, you know, obviously if you have OneDrive, it's got to phone the home office. Intuit's Mint, Spotify, okay. Even the Washington Post's own app, IBM's Weather Channel app. One app, which has always been a little skeezy, if you ask me, Citizen. Citizen was the app that's supposed to scare you about living in San Francisco.
I know someone who's just actually pulled that off.
It'll terrify you because it tells you all of the police action near you.
I know it was a pain to work with a chap because he's just like every 10 minutes or so, it's just like, oh no, someone's been stabbed on here on Mission and Seventh.
It was clearly designed
because it's Mission and Seventh
to terrify you. But apparently, Citizen shared personally identifiable information in violation of its own published privacy policy.
Do we honestly really trust app developers to adhere to a privacy policy?
No.
And what's amusing is this week Google actually had a blog post where they were like, oh, by the way, from now on, we are making any browser plugins tell you what data they're collecting and what they're using it for, and give you. And they were trying very hard, and they're trying to put it forth.
About time.
We care about. We are making we are making our third party developers care about your data, but it seems like a little bit of a runaround where Google can say we're not really the problem here. The problem is the third party developers. And again, Apple has the same cover of plausibility where Tim Cook can talk about how privacy is a fundamental human right and a value, but look at what's being sold, look what's being offered in the Apple Store, and look at the complete lack of enforcement.
I talked to Phil Zimmerman, the creator of PGP, and he said, I will never carry an Android phone. I always carry an iPhone. But he said, very important, don't install any apps on it. Because while you might be able to trust Apple,
you can't trust anyone else.
You can't trust anybody else. And we know Facebook, we know all these companies, their total goal is to get on your phone, because then they have information about you, your location, what you do. They can sell to other people.
No, I mean, I don't mind. I accept that when it comes to basic privacy, Apple is better than Android in some regards. But I just hate this marketing campaign of we're all about privacy, we're about your data being, and it's complete rubbish.
Right.
You know, it's like any normal user, you're in no way more secure, and if you're in the Far East, then you're less secure.
Why does it take a reporter to find this out? How come Apple is not doing the same testing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Apple, I would guess Apple knows.
Yeah. But it's not
just
them, it's
chooses
somebody
not to-
else. It's
not to
plausible.
mention it.
It's plausible deniability. Oh, it's not us. It's
the same thing with Cambridge Analytica. They knew about that for 2.5 years.
But to be fair, Apple, in fact, somebody called me on the radio show asking about this. Apple does allow you to go into the settings and say, don't let this contact its home office. For a lot of these apps, they'd be useless if OneDrive can't see what's on your cloud, or Spotify can't download music, you're not going to be using it.
Yeah.
And wasn't there a story a few weeks ago about how there's some things you just can't see because it's locked down. The iPhone itself.
The iPhone, yeah, well, that was one of the stories. Was and this went back to the Israeli firm that was responsible for putting
spyware. WhatsApp.
They allow people to hack WhatsApp with a phone call, not even a picked up phone call, with WhatsApp on the iPhone, and. So, that's problem number one, is that you may have a perfectly secure iPhone. You put WhatsApp on it, suddenly it can be owned easily. Then the problem came up, a lot of security researchers pointed out, because of Apple's restrictions, the way it's locked down, we can't tell if it's actually almost impossible to tell if an iPhone has been compromised because you can't get into it.
I got in trouble at work for refusing to install WhatsApp and put it on my phone because somebody wanted to.
The boss wanted to WhatsApp you.
Yeah. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't put that on my I was like, I don't put it on my personal device. And
good for you.
And you can reach me via SMS. But the people in the room looked at me like I had two heads, and I was like, it's a security threat. Why would I knowingly install a security threat for someone else's comfort and convenience?
No, our Office Millennial was trying to get me into Snapchat, and so I downloaded it and looked at the kind of permissions it was looking for. I don't really care that much about dog face filters.
You could see how you'd look as a woman. Don't you want to see as you look as a woman?
Honestly, I probably wouldn't be very pretty, so I can live without
makeup on you. The funny thing with that Snapchat filter is we're all beautiful.
Talking about privacy, I don't know if we're done with the story, but if we go
never done with this story, Wesley.
But it dovetails into what's also on the rundown about Amazon Echo being able to say delete.
Yes.
That's something new that rolled out today. The ability to say delete today's recordings or last week's or last week's.
But what Lisa was saying about plausible deniability is the same thing in a different way that Amazon's doing, where they're putting all the onus on the user. You have to remember to say, remove this data, or don't opt into this data, or do this research into each app. That they say that that's why their system is the best, is because they care. They check every app.
I have a theory on this. I think this is in the wake of GDPR and privacy regulations in California and elsewhere. This is what you're going to see, is all these companies say, oh, yeah, we completely agree. That's why we've given the user the choice. And they know, because they know from their own experience, that the tyranny of the default, users are just going to use whatever the default is. So they actually have it both ways. They look like they're giving you lots of choice. They're giving you lots of control of privacy. Apple does that. In fact, it even says, this program's been using your location in the background. You want to let it continue? And most people say, well, maybe in that case they'll say no. But I think in most cases people just say fine. And these companies know this. Google knows this. Facebook knows this.
Well, no, they actually designed their a couple of companies have been fined in Europe for this, for so-called dark patterns. You design your website to push the user into certain paths of doing things and certain default settings. And this is actually illegal under some sections of European law.
Although, do they even know if it's a dark pattern? Because that's dark pattern, you don't even know.
Right?
Well, true, yeah.
So I think we're going to see this become an emerging story, because like you said, the CCPA goes into effect next year. And
California privacy.
Yeah, the California Consumer Privacy Act.
It's the strongest law in the United States.
Well, here's the thing, because California now consumers will have the right to corporate disclosure of how their personal data is being collected and used. So they have the right to disclosure, but it doesn't specify how it's disclosed. They'll have the consumers will have the right to access the personal data that has been collected by companies. They'll have the right to request that the personal data be deleted. They'll have the right to know how companies have been sharing their personal data. But the scope of the law is actually kind of limited, because the company has to earn more than $25 million a year in revenue.
There's incidentally no punishment.
It has to make, and this company that makes more than $25 million a year in revenue has to make at least 50% of its revenue from selling personal computed data. So if you're a company like Amazon or Microsoft or Apple, it's probably not going to affect you, because you can say plausibly it's a very tiny revenue stream.
These were all later amendments made to what was a very strong privacy law. And then these companies came in and said, well, let's change that, let's change that. And most importantly, let's eliminate any punishment. And then go ahead, pass your law. And that's the dark pattern. That's what you're going to see time and time again, is these companies paying lip service to privacy, while in fact, people aren't going to have the choices, or they're not going to, they're going to be pushed in the wrong direction.
And like you pointed out, Wesley, once again, it's going to be the onus is going to be on people to have
figure
to
out how to
protect
do
their
this.
basic rights,
Find
as opposed to
the
companies
hidden
having
email
to
that they have to
protect
find and send and request this data. And just out of curiosity, I'm not familiar with this law. Does this include government sources of personal data?
Oh, that's interesting.
Like red light cameras or any other information that they scoop up on you.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I would love to see what the local government has on me. So every time a toll tag is hit, all that stuff. Because that's all personal.
Yeah.
I think the other issue is that while many companies are collecting data on you, it has been up to now siloed. Yeah. But increasingly it's being distributed, sold. It's going to data brokers who are then selling it on to other parties,
amalgamating it,
and as it gets added together, they build a ultimately perfect picture of your behavior.
It's like the mortgage scandal where they dice up all these mortgages
chop
and
up
like
the
sell them
CDOs.
off.
It does kind of it's kind of depressing that the best minds in computer science these days aren't working on the big problems. They're working out how to sell us cheap tap.
They're working on the big problem, how to make more money.
That's the
big problem.
Yeah.
Why would they not work on that?
The adage, you improve what you measure.
Right.
And there's not a really
that's so good
index to make sure that
we haven't made a privacy index measurable, quantifiable.
And make it public and make it so that everyone is focused on that.
Yeah, that's a really good plan.
Yeah. I think the EFF does try to do that, but if you've got one
organization,
it's
uphill. If consumers don't care, it's uphill.
Yeah.
I won't mention his name, but someone at the EFF told me they've actually got on a whiteboard in the office number of days since Facebook's last privacy failure. it's constantly having to be.
So I'm reassured everything's going to be fine because apparently the FTC and the FCC and the Department of Justice have divided up the tech world, and they have said who they're going after. The latest is Department of Justice is now picking up the dropped FTC investigation of Google. They dropped it in 2013. They're going to start. Meanwhile, the FTC has been given Amazon to look into. And so they've kind of divided the world up like Spain and Portugal divided the world up.
Yeah, they're going after these individual companies, but we also saw the FCC issued approval this week for the Sprint T-Mobile merger.
But then the DOJ said no.
Yeah, but I mean, if there's one thing the US needs, it's more competition.
I think there's government dark patterns. I think this is an example of a government dark pattern. Where they're saying, don't worry. The DOJ is going to handle that.
Right.
The FTC is going to handle that. We got it under control. The FTC established
They'll object to that.
a special task force to monitor tech and competition. There's a special task force.
One of the challenges I think you're going to find in a lot of the federal government is exactly how tech literate or tech fluent they're going to be.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's your starting point right there, is because if you've got, although there's a revolving door at a political appointee level, if you're talking institutional knowledge, exactly what incentive has there been for employees to know about this stuff? This also
sounds like a classic administration move where they could separate this out, and for running for the 2020 saying we're under control. And then at the same time talk to businesses and say, hey, don't worry about it. That they're able to have it both ways by separating it out like this.
That's exactly right. In fact, in the face of California's privacy bill, I think it was Marco Rubio who said, no, there shouldn't be state privacy because there'd be 50 different rules. We'll take care of this. We're going to make a federal privacy law. And then that was that.
Yeah.
It was very interesting, though.
But it's private. You can't see it.
See, it was very interesting. After the Cambridge Analytica scandal broke, a lot of tech companies shifted their position. For years, they've been, we should not have a national privacy law. That should be down to the states. And once they realized the scale of the mistakes that had been made, it was kind of like, okay, let's get a national law. Google is the largest lobbying spender in the out of the entire tech sector. They were just like, okay, we need a federal law. We've got the lobbyists. We can get exactly what we want. And as you say, we'll push it all onto the user and job done.
If you're a tech company, do you want to be out in front identifying the problem and writing the legislation that you give to your pet lawmakers to pass? Or do you want to be on the receiving end of legislation that your competition helped craft?
Here's the, this will tell you, this is the press release from Marco Rubio's office. Rubio introduces privacy bill to protect consumers while promoting innovation.
Oh, God, the buzzwords.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Promoting innovation. I think that you don't have to worry that the federal privacy bill, the American Data Dissemination Act,
You see, this is
which
why
sounds, by the way, like it has something to do with contraception, doesn't it? I mean, am I
well, no,
wrong?
because it's coming from a Republican, so obviously
American
it wouldn't.
Dissemination Act.
That actually sounds like, if it's data dissemination, it sounds
Right.
like you're
Let's
rounding
take
things
the
up.
semen
It's
out
all-
of it.
Disseminating from big donors.
Yeah.
No, but
into its coffers.
to get back to Ian's point
I
about the
believe, says
lobbying.
Rubio, any efforts to address consumer privacy must also balance the need to protect the innovative capabilities of the digital economy that have enabled new entrants in small business. You know, I can't disagree with him.
If it's any entity in this country that's been poorly served, it's corporate America.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so full of weasel
White
words
men
and
and
dodge.
corporate America. That's the big two.
But
Yeah.
this is it. It's so full of sort of weasel words and dodge outs that it
Yes.
could mean anything. We need to look at the legislation itself, and instead we're getting press releases about trust us, it'll be great. I just
No, I sort of feel like if you want to see where a company is going to go business-wise, take a look at what they're advocating for now when it comes to national policy. For example, I feel like it's kind of noteworthy that Microsoft has been leading the charge on a lot of things like data privacy and facial recognition. Because my question is, well, if they're advocating for these really specific standards that do these really specific things, what's the downline? And
Yeah.
so that's what you should be asking anytime. If Tim Cook is like, "Oh, privacy is our premium,"
But
what's the downline?
Let me
what's the
ask you
sales
this,
pitch?
because Senator Warren and a number of other presidential candidates for 2020 have said we should break up Amazon, Facebook, Google. Is that a solution? Seems to me that's
No.
draconian in the other direction.
It's just the same with Huawei. Naming companies and then saying we're going to go after them does not fix any future problems. You have to figure out what the problem is. It's not those companies. That's maybe an example in whoever's eyes that's where the problem is. But outline what the problem is and come up with a solution for the problem. Because let's say you kill all these big companies or you kill Huawei, how are you going to tackle the next problem without having some sort of way of describing what the problem actually is?
Would breaking up Amazon solve anything when it comes to either facial recognition technology use or data brokering? Or would you just have a smaller subset of Amazon that's now devoted to selling facial recognition technology?
I don't know. Part of me would like to see Facebook, the sort of Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp thing broken up into separate companies because it's kind of getting like AT&T. But at the same time, I don't see a real benefit for it.
Yeah, but
either.
AT&T came back together.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing.
And also, what's the benefit for the marketplace if you break up Facebook? Like, who is being hurt by the competition?
Well, I mean, it's not
I
like
would
they're gonna
make an
knock-
argument that breaking up Google isn't such a bad thing. It bothered me when Google got into the content business. When Google was it seems to me a search engine should be a search engine. Yeah, sell advertising, that's fine. But when you acquire YouTube, and maybe they're not, maybe they are, but there's always been the accusation favoring YouTube content and search. That is a problem. And and there's no reason Google needs to own YouTube. There's no synergy there except an advertising and a privacy invasion synergy. So if they got rid of YouTube, if they got rid of, I mean, maybe the moonshots you have to keep because who's going to fund that? If you don't have deep pockets, you're not going to. Waymo's not going to make any money for years. Verily, not going to make money for years. Project Looney. I don't know. I think there are things you could do. I would love to see regulators say YouTube.
But what is the thing that you're fixing?
You're fixing. Here's the thing you're fixing. You're fixing search for one thing, because when search is compromised, in fact, even Larry Page said this when they first wrote the first papers about PageRank. They said we should never take advertising because no matter what, if you do, it's going to taint your search results.
So shouldn't there be, instead of break up or separate, shouldn't it be like you cannot do this with search or X or favor,
Well, that's another way
or
of-
just like find a way to define that fully, exactly what is wrong, instead of just targeting them, because it doesn't fix when Twitch and Amazon become the next behemoth in terms of content and search.
It's the combination of multiple entities and the synergy, and this is why they bought YouTube for
Right.
$3.2 billion, the synergy of all these videos, we know what you like, tying into Google and Google search and Google advertising. That's to me, that's the incentive for surveillance.
So if you just sever
If you sever-
the pool of information on one person, doesn't that fix the problem?
Yes, maybe that's another approach. It's a more sensible approach. It's awfully hard to do that since all of that information is flowing inside a company.
But if you say that now, it's the same as when they separate them into two different
That's
companies.
true. They could still circulate it.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that it would be more sensible to pursue privacy protections than it is pursue breaking.
And of course, that'll be up to the user to figure out.
I think if you were to pass legislation that forced companies to assign a dollar value to data, like you said, measurable things get results, and companies do assign dollar values to specific users when they package your data and move it on. If you force that information to be public for publicly traded companies, I think that kind of transparency gives lawmakers something to hold on to and start moving forward.
I think this is what got people really moving on GDPR was because it was just like, okay, it's another privacy law. But then when she looks, hang on, they can take 4% of our revenues. Yeah, we can't even use Hollywood accounting to just do it on profits and pay nothing.
That is a real stick. Yeah. That is a hell of a fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where they got $5 billion out of.
It was just
Google.
France that went after Google, right?
I think they have.
That's a new one. Yeah.
And they're also going after Apple for planned obsolescence, and they may well be going after Google for that because
I just worry with all this stuff. Doesn't that at this point? At some point, what does the company just go? Oh, screw it. I can't.
At my workplace, I'm required to take a privacy rights online course every year.
Oh, good. This is Petri? Who is this?
No, I work for Informa.
Informa.
Like my publication is owned by Informa, which is a really big research and industry events and publishing arm. And we have to take it, and because
it's funny because I'm not really worried about Informa stealing my information.
They sell a lot of it though.
Oh, do they?
And the thing is, because part of my job involves writing, producing, editing, and sending out email newsletters, I have to be conversant in what the privacy
mailing lists.
Yeah, I have mailing lists, and since I'm not responsible for administering those mailing lists, but because I do use them, I have to know. And in the privacy training I have to go through every year, they're very, very careful to say you can't send out this kind of email in Germany because of Germany's privacy laws. You can't send out this kind of email in Australia's laws. And so we do have a case where, globally speaking, different people have different experiences based on their country's conception of what online privacy is.
Well, didn't Chicago Tribune actually shut down all European traffic? It was just
Yes.
They cut them off.
Yeah.
That's the oh screw it option.
But I guess the question is,
Londoners and Parisians not being able to get their daily news from Chicago.
No.
But
I can't read trunk.
But here's the thing: is even the thing is, it's not like the company I work for shut down operations in Germany or can never make money in Australia. They just have to do it differently. And I think sometimes we tend to conflate making money easily with making money. Period. When that's not necessarily going to be the case.
You have no right to make it easily.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is we've gotten to a point now where the attitude is, why would we want to put obstacles in the way of innovation and profits in companies when the question should be instead, why aren't we?
It is a battle. Look at what Apple did. Apple, after losing in the Supreme Court, it's the issue is going to be whether they could be sued or not as a monopoly by consumers. The Supreme Court said yes, consumers do have standing, so that lawsuit will go forward. Apple's response was to create what do you call this? A advertising page, a propaganda page.
Yeah,
that's exactly
App Store dedicated to the best store experience for everyone. What a number of people pointed out is that Apple really, this whole document just really underscores the fact that Apple does have a monopoly. It's our store, and we take responsibility for it.
And we charge you 30% if you want to sell your app
defense.
on it.
Just said, but you're going to love it because it's our store. Look, you're secure. We review apps. We reject 40% of all apps. We give developers but this didn't answer any of the issues that I think people were raising about the App Store monopoly.
But this is why these investigations, these legal cases are so useful because, Apple responds to their legal problems with this. We've just seen Facebook is going up in court, is going to try and literally argue the case that you have no expectation of privacy because you use Facebook.
That's just a lawyer's. That's just a lawyer's.
I know it's just a lawyer's thing, but it knocks on to their public image and what people reckon. And this is why Apple's doing this kind of thing.
Right, yeah.
You're going to see a major.
What would ever make you think you had any privacy on Facebook? Why would you have thought that?
Scott McNealy famously came up with the "you have no privacy, get used to it" thing. But I also remember when the Snowden archives came out, he actually tweeted, "Wow, I didn't know quite how right I was."
I don't like being right.
We will also see the most important story, I think, tomorrow. And by the way, our coverage of the keynote begins 10 a.m. Pacific. That's 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 1600 UTC. You could watch, if Google isn't down, at twit.tv/live. Actually, we probably won't put it on YouTube because Apple has, for some reason, some aversion to us streaming its conferences on YouTube, so we'll stream it everywhere else. But what we do is commentary on it, which, as far as I know, is still allowed in the free world.
Oh, yes. They haven't found out a way to block you yet. But,
Well, they try. Believe me, they try. So Megan Maroney and I will comment on it at 10 a.m. One of the things I think everybody is so excited, dark mode in iOS. Now, let's really talk about the real news here, okay? The real news.
yeah, like I said.
What is it with people in dark mode? Wesley? I don't know why I asked you.
Okay, as a representative of melanin, I guess I could speak on this subject. It's not as harsh on the eyes. Example.
But yeah, you are pretty easy on the eyes, Wesley.
Also, it saves tons of battery power.
Yeah. That's the real reason. On
a
phone, an OLED screen, you want a dark.
Just a software change, and now they can boost numbers. Just generally speaking, on all their devices.
I thought it was really interesting. Adam Angst Tidbits wrote a story on actually the fact that dark mode's bad for your eyes.
Well, you do need more. Like technically, more light means your eyes don't have to work so hard.
Vision research has shown humans prefer dark on light because that's the real world.
Yeah.
You're out there in the sky, and the sky is bright in the sun and stuff. Humans evolved outside. We're generally active in the daytime. We go to sleep when it's dark. We like to be able to see things. And so a lot of research says that dark mode is, in fact, not as good for your eyes.
I would like to see how updated this is in terms of the studies. I think in general, yes, but
it feels better to my
We are spending way more time in front of screens where the nit value is a lot higher than they have been ever.
It's like you're staring at at the sun like
exactly
the whole time. Yeah.
And so
That's
yes, that I believe that was the case, but with the screens and how they're pushing out all these photons, I think maybe it's not the case anymore.
Yeah. It's certainly more comfortable for the eyes. I notice when I've been using dark mode for a while, and then I go to a page with like this, which black text and white screen, like, my eyes. You know?
Yeah.
It's actually quite useful. I want to say the real use of dark mode is if quite frankly, it was the middle of the night. Because if you turn on a non-dark mode screen, it instantly it blasts your eyes, and the brain's just like, oh, it's daylight, wake up.
Yeah.
Whereas with a dark mode, you've got a much better chance of being able to just like, oh, it's not important, right, go back to sleep.
But maybe the bright thing to do would be to turn your screen down and use light mode, but just have a dimmer screen. I don't know. We do know that all the blue in the screens is keeping people awake.
Right. And all the notifications, that's also one of the updates that we skipped over about having like sleep mode.
Am I really the only person who turns off notifications in almost all of her
No,
apps?
but that's the new thing, right? You won't get notifications anymore.
Yeah, sleep mode automatically turn off do not disturb.
Yeah, no, I actually have notifications turned off on my app on the phone like almost all the time.
That's the key to me, and that's what I do is I'm in do not disturb all the time.
Yeah.
And then that way the phone isn't bugging me, and if I can look at it and see what people are saying.
But I also try not to look at screens for like half an hour before bed.
But you also have a watch though, right?
I do, and I put it on theater mode at 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
And,
wow. She's serious about this.
No, I am dead serious about sleep hygiene because I think as long as you set down the boundaries for yourself, where you're like, look, no notifications, put the watch in theater mode so that even if you're moving your arm around, it doesn't accidentally activate. And give your brain about a half an hour of not looking at any screen whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that is important. That last half hour.
Clear out the buffer. Yeah.
I'm going to introduce a new feature on This Week in Tech. Alexa, delete everything I just said. We're just going to say that every 5 minutes. Okay?
Well, this actually raises a... So I told you before the show started that we recently cut the cord. We no longer get cable, and we use Apple TV for everything now because all of our streaming services can be accessed through Apple TV. So there's a lot of Siri. My daughter loves doing the Siri rewind 25 seconds and watch another scene.
I love that. I do that all the time.
Here's the thing. I don't know how to find out what Siri's microphone policy is. It's ambient listening policy. And this could be coincidence, or this could not. What I have noticed in the few months that we've been going through this, Apple TV is our primary TV interface and our only IoT device in the house, is my search engine autofill results have been uncannily tied to the things I've just been talking about. And it's creeping me out. So, I'm glad that Alexa
I hear
now has
this a lot, and I have to think that mostly it's coincidence.
Well, I'm trying to figure out, like, how much of this is me looking for a pattern that doesn't exist, and how much of this might be me observing a pattern that I'm not supposed to notice.
But am I the only person that finds it really creepy that you've got to give Alexa a command to say this? Why aren't they just deleting this stuff by default?
Yeah.
Oh, because it's not their responsibility.
Just like human beings, just like consumers are supposed to recycle their end waste, as opposed to the corporations that generate the crap having a recycle.
Just
stream
like
in
you
place.
accept those cookies in every website you go to.
And every website.
It is one of my favorite T-shirts from DEF CON is "Jesus is coming, delete your cookies."
Oh, I never thought of that. We had a fun time this week on Twitter, and we've, I believe, prepared a short movie to demonstrate what fun we had.
Previously on Twit.
Oh, there's the alert. Tornado warning for the next 15 minutes.
Paul, I would take that.
now.
Take shelter, Paul.
Yeah, but come on.
They say, and then they get
What am I, a whip?
a witch's house on them.
Windows Weekly.
We will today cover the new Windows. Windows Modern.
All about Android.
Walmart is now selling its own trio of branded Android tablets. Who said tablets were dead?
Hands-on tech.
The Pixel 3a XL costs roughly half the price of the Pixel 3 XL. So how do they compare?
Triangulation.
All of human history has shown that mass surveillance gets abused. I can't detach myself from my face. At least a license plate reader I can get out of a car. We have never seen a technology this powerful be entrusted to those with police power over our lives.
Twit, home of the Flowmaster.
Security photography.
Former home.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program for a special announcement.
This will be my final GizFizz show.
Oh.
What?
Nearly 9 years here.
Alex Gumpel.
I will be out.
The Flowmaster.
To Seattle, where I will start a new life, a new job at a TV station there as a broadcast engineer.
I hope you can fix the audio.
I'll never get to accidentally misspell an elf again.
Alex, who's been with us practically since Twit started, he came almost straight out of high school to work for us, is going to work for Como in Seattle as a professional TV engineer. So we're very, very proud of the Flowmaster.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your years of service, Alex. Our show today brought to you by Eero. I love my Eero at home. Eero is the smartest Wi-Fi I've ever had. Wi-Fi was easy when you had one or two devices. Your neighbor didn't have Wi-Fi. You weren't trying to stream Netflix. But these days, the single router model just does not work very well. And you're probably all experiencing what I was experiencing at home. Honey, the internet is down. After about the 18th time I heard that, I decided to get an Eero. And I have to say, it's awesome. The best analogy is it's like a light bulb. Wi-Fi does not go through walls very well. So if you have a lamp in your living room and you hope it will light up your bedroom, good luck. With Eero, you have lamps all over your house, Eero beacons, which bring the Wi-Fi closer to you. It's essentially what the enterprises, including Twit, have been using for years now in your home, an enterprise-grade mesh Wi-Fi system, and it's so easy. It's not complicated to install. You install the Eero app on your iOS or Android device. It'll walk you through the process, help you place the beacons. Depending on the size of your house, you might have one or two. We have 5 base stations in our house because it's a big place. It's about 1,500 square feet per unit. And then the Eero app lets you manage your network. In fact, I love Eero Plus. I can have, in fact, we have our 16-year-old's Wi-Fi turn off at 9 p.m. Time to go to bed. No more Minecraft. We also have our devices stay up as late as we want because we're grown-ups. State-of-the-art WPA2 encryption. There's a guest network, which is great, so you can let guests have access to Wi-Fi without getting onto your network. And the most important thing these days for any device that's on the internet in your house, especially the router, is automatic over-the-air updates. Eero updates automatically, so you not only have the latest features, but the latest security at all times. And they do updates fairly regularly, which is fantastic. If you ever have a question, their customer support is amazing. 30-second response time, and they will stay on the phone. I know they stayed on the phone with me till they fix the issue. Eero Plus is well worth the small amount of money it costs. I use it for everything. It protects my network against malware, spyware, phishing attacks, unsuitable content. I could block it across the entire network. And by checking the sites you visit against a database of millions of known threats, Eero Plus protects you from accidentally visiting malicious sites without slowing anything down. Violent, illegal, or adult content's tagged. You can decide who sees what whenever you want. $99 for a year is well worth it. I love the Eero Plus. Right now, we got a great deal. $100 off the Eero base station plus 2 beacons and a year of Eero Plus. $100 off when you go to Eero.com/twit and enter the code TWIT at checkout. EERO, Eero.com/twit. Don't forget to use the offer code TWIT. You'll save $100 and you'll let them know you saw it here. We really love our Eeros. You will too. I like it so much that when I got the new Eero, I sent the old one to my mom, set her up, because she was having Wi-Fi issues. Now she's got a great system, and I can even go on my phone. I would if I had it, but I left it at home. I can even go on my phone and see what her network's doing. I could see what her router is. I could control it. It's wonderful, even when you're away from home. EERO.com/twit. Don't forget the checkout code TWIT. Thank you, Eero, for your support of This Week in Tech and for continuing to give us a great product, updated all the time. Latest update from Google. Google Plus is still up. Gmail, not so much. YouTube, Although I see some people in the chat.
Maybe this is a marketing campaign to try and force us back onto it. It's
maybe,
not going to work.
You want the internet? We've got it. It's called Google Plus.
Yeah, this is what Facebook was like 10 years ago.
Still big red dots. I don't know what the lag time is on down detector, though. It might be significant. But it looks like, frankly, it's getting worse, not better.
It looks like a measles app, a measles map if the anti-vaxxers got their way.
Yeah, this is the old flu map that Google used to do.
Making fun of anti-vaxxers never gets old, just like some of their kids.
This is why I like this.
Oh, wow. The snark that the register.co.uk is so very famous for. That's a good joke. I have to remember that one.
I just got it. It's very contagious.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Oh, my goodness. Let's see. What were we talking about? I don't even know now.
I would like to talk about Microsoft being a possible candidate, even though it said Amazon, for this fourth wireless carrier. I like to plead the case of why Microsoft is better than Amazon.
So we should explain the backstory here. Of course, T-Mobile and Sprint planning to merge. We mentioned earlier that the FCC said, you go right ahead.
Yeah.
The DOJ say, whoa, hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But the real issue, I think, for everybody is it's good to have 4 different wireless carriers and 4 major wireless carriers. If you only have 3, I as a T-Mobile customer, want them to merge with Sprint. I think both
as a Sprint customer, I want them to merge with
you
T-Mobile.
Especially, they'll get better. So the plan is, let's make a 4th carrier.
Yep.
And you say that the candidates
they're talking about shearing off Boost Mobile,
right?
And having that be spun off, but it needs to be acquired by a company that's large enough that can compete with the other 3.
Is Boost Mobile? It's not an MVNO.
It is an MVNO, but it would be like a license to the spectrum, to the same airwaves. So they would have dedicated access for a certain period of time.
And then eventually, a company as big as Amazon or Microsoft
could build out their own
and
network. Acquire their own licenses too in order to compete. And there's an article on the rundown about how Amazon is possibly thinking about buying it and getting into the space. But Microsoft is a better fit because if you look at what was in that highlight reel about Microsoft's modern OS, how they're talking about how portability is part of the new future of seamless updates, bug fixes, so on and so forth. For the laptop space, being able to sell something that comes with cellular access would be an advantage. And also, Microsoft is one of the only big players in gaming that has not come out with a handheld. So Sony has, So is Nintendo, but Microsoft has not.
And they're absolutely right up there with Nintendo and Sony in the game space.
And if you're talking about streaming games, which they're leaning into with their xCloud, or not xCloud, their gaming cloud, that would also be able to, you can lower the power, but you'll need that connectivity and the speed guarantee. So that is why I think that is Microsoft should buy them. And plus,
have they made noise
company.
that they want to buy them?
Nope, they have not.
No.
They did kind of get burnt in the mobile sphere after
They did,
destroying
and that's
Nokia.
also another good thing. They'll be able to have. They'll still be in the portable space.
But they'll
and
never
they
make
could be,
a phone.
and they could be the backbone,
right?
Instead of actually being the one that is a major player.
Couldn't Google do the same with Project Fi? Just expand that out, and
They could. That's a good.
And that's an
Wouldn't that help their
MVNO
Android
running on
positioning?
Sprint and T-Mobile.
Yeah.
Unless they're seen as a competitor.
Oh, and U.S. Cellular. So actually, Google is kind of has a finger in all the pots. Yeah, maybe
Then
Google
again, do
should
we-
buy Boost.
Yeah, do we really want Google?
I think their partners might not like it.
Yeah.
That's right. They make Android phones.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so many Android phones.
That's an antitrust stick to beat them with as well. Yes.
Microsoft still has an issue with RDP. More than 1 million computers vulnerable.
Yeah, Rob
to-
Graham did some good research on
Yeah,
this.
this is an exploit that affects remote desktop, not in Windows 10, but in prior versions of Windows. And they call it Eternal Blue because every exploit has to have a name.
Thanks to Grossy the dog for that name. Yes, it was.
And with
I think if you're watching a lot of Game of Thrones, that when he came up with
I
it.
also think Eternal Blue is a callback.
Oh no, hang on, that was the NSA name for it, wasn't it?
No, yeah, the NSA was.
I was thinking BlueKeep. Yeah, sorry.
Or so, yeah, so I think
That
it's a
does sound very
callback to the
Game of
NSA
Thrones.
flaw, which powered WannaCry.
Yeah, actually, it is called BlueKeep. It's using the.
Oh, it is
it's
BlueKeep,
similar
right? Yeah.
To the Eternal Blue.
BlueKeep sounds like a surf
Eternal
movie.
Blue was the NSA exploit.
Yeah.
Yes.
BlueKeep
Is the weaponized version of it, which
is this.
is this new one, this RDP flaw, which because so few XP machines will ever be patched, even though Microsoft, weirdly enough, is offering a patch for it.
No, they did it for.
You have to
for
go
the
get it.
XP. You can.
But
get
you have
the
to go
patch
get it, and that's
Right.
the problem.
Unless you had your own cellular network where you could push it out.
Anybody who's still running Windows XP is probably not checking for updates.
No.
Well,
So
you say
They better not be connected to the internet.
I mean, you say that. I went down to JPL a few years back for a landing, and their projection system runs on XP. You know, when the projector went into dark mode, you got the little XP window.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was just
Yeah,
like,
but it's
I'm
not
at
online,
JPL
right?
for goodness
But it's
sake.
not online. It's
No,
just
I know, but you know, there's a principle involved.
There's a lot of
right?
X-ray
Well,
machines.
it's
There's a lot of medical
budgetary
equipment
issues.
that
If
is
you-
never going to be updated.
It's budgetary issues.
Yeah.
You know, and it's difficult sometimes for
well, and I'm not going
IT
to buy a whole
pros
new
to make a business
X-ray
case for it.
machine just so that I get the latest version of
Yeah.
Windows.
Exactly. Yeah.
So this is going to be. Steve Gibson on Tuesday was saying it's going to be the end of the world. I don't know. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. But
Well,
watch out for BlueKeep. And if you
yeah.
have a Windows XP machine or Windows 7 or Windows
off
Server
your ports.
2003 or Windows Server 2008 R2 or Windows Server 2008, please update it so that you're not part of the problem. Because it's a worm, it's a worm, which means
Yeah.
it will use the network to spread.
It was
But
right-
them fixing it is an exception.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah. That's how
it's-
serious
yeah.
Microsoft says this
Right.
is. We better.
But the
fix
next
this.
one, there might not be a security patch because these are
Yeah.
EOL.
Yeah.
But if I think they're desperate to avoid another WannaCry situation. I mean,
Yeah.
in part, Marcus Hutchins is now looking at prison time, but so he's not going to be around for that. But looking through the actual security announcement we got from Microsoft, this was very unusual language. It's like, this is a wormable hole. This is not language they use. I think they're
Right.
genuinely concerned about this.
So this blog post from Microsoft was very, very strange. We did talk about it at length on Windows Weekly. This is from Computex, which just ended in Taipei, Taiwan. And it starts off talking about all the new laptops. There's some very interesting PCs and laptops coming out, some really nice ones. And then, in fact, Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley thought maybe this was a cut and paste error. All of a sudden, there's a paragraph about a new operating system these machines can't run and probably never will run that Microsoft is dubbing a modern OS, sometimes with a capital M, sometimes not. So it's not even clear if that's the name of it. But it's a manifesto completely separate from the rest of the blog post, a manifesto for what the next version of Windows should have. Automatic, seamless updates, right? I think we'll all
This is
agree.
what we were sold for Windows 10.
They said this every year.
Yeah.
Secure by default.
Oh, yeah, because they're not going to say, well, there are a few holes in there, but we can't find them
Well, what
yet.
they're talking about, though, here is sandboxing. And Microsoft has of late really been doubling down on the idea of sandboxing.
They just released a browser plugin that allows you to
run
launch.
Internet Explorer in Edge.
Well, the argument they're using here basically is if your enterprise has a list of sites that are whitelisted, and then one of your users is like, let's go to another site, and they go into a site that is a known hazard, it automatically sandboxes that session so that nothing can escape that browser session, get onto your user's machine, and from thence hop onto the network.
They also use a sandbox in Windows Defender now, the antivirus. So when they say secure by default, they say the state is separated from the operating system, compute is separated from applications. So I think they're just saying we want the entire thing. Kind of like, what is it, Cubes OS, which is every process is sandboxed. I think that's interesting. Always connected. This is what you were talking about. The idea of ARM chips that are...
It's so cute how they think there's never going to be any dead spots in connectivity.
It's a very Silicon Valley, West Coast kind of phenomenon.
It's West Coast
that
by way of never
expectation.
having gone east of the Sierras.
Yeah.
I mean,
or even just north of San Francisco. There's plenty of dead spots up north.
go to Bodega Bay sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always connected with a modern OS. Wi-Fi and LTE 5G will just work. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And work is the worst phrase
It'll just
ever.
work.
No technology
That means you're
company
going to be hammering at the keyboard, shouting
It's as if
obscenities at
there's-
some point in the next 6
And
months.
I
users
don't
never
see
have
how an
to worry
operating
about a
system
dead
is going
spot.
to will a network of satellites into place. Like, I just don't. You can be really good
Elon
at.
is willing it into place. God bless him.
Yeah.
There's already 60 up. Now the astronomers are worried that if there's 12,000, you'll never see the sun again.
Well, exactly. And if we get a Kessler effect going on, then we'll never get out of the gravity well again. But,
Can you imagine? Like, this is how you solve climate change.
sun-
Elon Musk keep flinging satellites.
So the plan is 12,000 low Earth orbit satellites. 12,000. There's only 2,000 space objects right now. And now that admittedly is not yet the Kessler effect. You'd still be able to get through them.
Oh,
but
yeah.
at sunrise and sunset, the sky would light up with fireflies from this Starlink. On the other hand,
Sky will be dark mode.
Snapchat everywhere. It might be worth it. Dark mode sky. They also say that a modern OS provides sustained performance, cloud-connected experiences, AI, multi-sense. This is interesting. People can use pen, voice, touch, and even gaze. Whatever input method a user wants to use works just as well as the keyboard and the mouse.
Spelled Gaze for those on audio. I mean, I know it's Pride Month, so I'm just making sure.
Oh, I never thought you could use gaze to operate an operating system. Okay. And then I had to, like that contagious joke earlier, I had to really think about what you were talking about there. And the modern OS has the ultimate in form factor agility.
The right sensor supported in posture awareness.
It's unclear what they're talking about. Is this?
That's because they're unclear what they're talking about.
The real thing that Paul said is this is probably Windows Lite, which they've been talking a lot about, which is just a light version of Windows. I said this would be great if they started from scratch, create a whole new operating system with modern needs in mind, but that's not what they're talking about.
Unless we're talking thin client, where they're leveraging the cloud to do the compute offsite so that it never degrades because most of the compute is handling offsite.
Oh, and that would be cool as long as there's no dead spots.
Yeah, as long as there's no dead spots.
Yeah. We'll watch with
this
interest.
modern OS is going to be aimed at an IoT crowd.
They do mention IoT.
Because this actually seems one of the biggest challenges in IoT can be inconsistent connectivity, especially if you're talking about cases like in oil fields or some agricultural things. And so if Microsoft is like, we're building an OS that is comparatively lightweight and still allows connectivity so it transmits data when you need it and when it's actionable, this seems aimed right at it.
Paul Thurrott took yesterday to release his review of the Huawei P30 phone. Best smartphone camera ever, he said. Shortly after that, Huawei announced, we're not making any more phones. They are slowing down phone production because of the United States restrictions.
Just as they become the second largest smartphone manufacturer in the world, and then this happens.
It's the weirdest story ever. We'll never get to the bottom of it. We've talked about it a lot on all of our shows, but apparently the latest news is Huawei is ending smartphone production. It does make among the best smartphones. As you said, the number 2 smartphone company in the world. Paul loves it. I hope you... The problem with it, Paul, is 3 months from now, there'll be no more Android updates. So
that's the rub.
I don't know if we want to use it. This is
They're even being kicked out of the IEEE. I mean, it's just...
Everybody has just turned their back. They're being... What is it?
But there's no evidence. You know, it's the same thing that they did with Kaspersky. No evidence. Same thing the reason why we went to Iraq in the first place.
It's security theater. It's the illusion of doing something instead of addressing the real. It's watch the hand, watch the hand, watch the hand.
But it's almost like one person. I'm not going to mention the name.
Almost like one person
is like deciding to kill this company.
Yeah,
it just seems that way for some reason.
So who benefits by the company being killed? Would be the question you have to
I was
answer.
in a joke store in Vegas yesterday.
I was going to say this sounds like a bad.
It was called Stupidiotic, which is a good name, and it had red MAGA hats, but the slogan on it was "Make red hats great again." I like that. I might buy that hat. I think that's a good hat.
And Ian, you have that sticker.
Which one? Make root great again.
I didn't even see that. Very nice.
No, I know.
Wow.
I picked that up at ShmooCon a couple of years
Make
ago.
root great again.
Oh my gosh.
I could wear that shirt. U.S. is now, we'll just continue in this vein. The U.S. is now seeking social media details from all visa applicants.
I knew it as an immigrant. When the Obama administration first floated this, I was just like, yeah, this isn't good. This is going to snowball quite. And now, and then went from voluntarily give your social media profiles, only your public-facing social media profiles, and now it's give it all now. And it's not as though terrorists are going to be going, off to America, about to blow up a bill. Oh, no, I meant to go and walk through the tulips.
Hashtag boom. Nobody's doing that.
YOLO.
So the new visa application lists a number of social media platforms and then says you must give us any account name you may have used over the previous 5 years.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if you're a young person who's had like a Finstagram or anything like that? It's just...
Also 5 years of previously used telephone numbers, email addresses, international travel, and deportation status, as well as whether any family members have ever been terrorists. Honest to God, they asked that question.
Right. Okay, story time. Back when you, as a Brit, you could come to the US and they would just give you a little green form you filled in on the flight, and that gave you 90 days access. And there were some yes or no questions you had to answer. It was like, have you visited a farm recently that had infectious things? Have you carrying any fruits and veg? And then the last question was, have you participated in any acts of genocide since 1945? And you're just like, what are they expecting? So we go, tick, yes, I just cleanse my soul. It's just, I don't know why they put these questions in, whether it's a liability question or whether it's just something else they can throw at you. But
security
with social media, that's just...
it's a great way to shut down immigrants who want to critique the U.S. on social media, isn't it?
You can't come here if you don't like us.
Yeah. And if you're already here, it's a great way to have you avoid making any observations that would appear not normal to anybody who's already habituated to what's going on in this country.
It's like the censure, the census form for
that's
how
outrageous.
you have to check whether or not you're a citizen or not.
Did that go through? Is that in?
So,
it's still not.
Fun story this week.
Is this the hard drives?
Yes.
This is just a great story. I won't spoil it. Go for it.
And bear in mind, it's been a long decade, week, whatever. As it turns out, the Republican strategist who came up with the citizenship...
Thomas B. Hofeller.
Yes. Yeah. So he dies.
In August.
His estranged daughter, who happens to be a progressive, finds these disk drives with all of the details as to how to get this highly politicized question onto the census. And so the plausible, well, no, it's totally not a political question, defense has now been
because he explicitly says, this is designed to bolster white and Republican support. And,
yes.
Really?
Yes.
What?
Who'd have thought it?
Oh, wow. That's surprising. That came out of nowhere.
Mr. Hofeller's exhaustive analysis of Texas state legislative districts concluded such maps would be advantageous to Republicans and non-Hispanic whites and would dilute the political power of the state's Hispanic population.
Yeah.
And this is a man whose career was based on using computer modeling to build the most elaborately gerrymandered sort of districts.
But he didn't know enough to sanitize his hard drives.
No, I know. It's just...
Well, I guess this is when you're grateful that the tech illiteracy is
The moral of this is, please use encryption, whole disk encryption. And make sure that that way you don't have to wipe your drive. You just
I don't know. I like to think the moral of this is if you're in politics, don't be a dick. But, you know.
Without questions on citizenship being included on the 2020 decennial census questionnaire, Mr. Hofeller wrote, the use of citizen voting age population is functionally unworkable. They wanted detailed citizenship data to draw the maps. So anyway, it's it's kind of the smoking drive, not a smoking gun, but the smoking drive.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. It's not just in the U.S. Let's talk to you, Mr.
Oh no, what have we done
Mr.
now?
Ian Thompson. If it's the ghost protocol.
If it's
do you know about GHCQ's ghost protocol?
I can't swear. Okay. Right, okay.
It sounds like the next Bourne novel.
Yeah, it does.
Wait, wasn't there a Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol?
There was a ghost protocol. This is a utterly bonkers piece of mental justification. Basically, what they're saying is the intelligence agencies in the UK appear to have come round to the thought that maybe permanently backdooring encryption so that anyone who finds that backdoor can read all your communications might be a bad idea on the security front. So they've come up with this new thing. Make the telecommunications companies and the apps companies allow us to be added as a ghost partner in any group chats. So if you're chatting with someone, even on an encrypted line, then the telco will have a legal duty, and they've already implemented this in Australia, to allow law enforcement to silently come on, listen to what's being said.
Wasn't this the flaw in Apple's FaceTime protocol? That all you had to do was add a ghost participant and you'd be able...
Well, I mean,
I wonder if they were getting ready for this.
I mean, GCHQ, which is our version of the NSA, a couple of GCHQ engineers wrote a sort of think piece about 3 months ago going, look, this is how we get around it. Law enforcement needs to be able to listen in on this stuff, but if we work with the app developers and the app runners, then people will show self-restraint, and this will be, something which will only be used very carefully. And based on past experience, all the restraint of a Labrador and an unguarded roast chicken. I mean, they're going to be right in there grabbing everything they possibly can.
Those developers, 47 strong, including Apple, Google, and the usual suspects, have written a letter. They wrote it May 22nd to GCHQ, to whom it may concern. We don't like this idea. They're saying, we don't agree with it. This is the Lawfare blog talking about it. It's actually been the best place to read.
Lawfare is excellent on this.
That's
sort of
where
stuff.
the piece was, the Ghost Protocol piece was originally publicized. Apple, Google, who else? Microsoft, WhatsApp, all saying this is obviously a terrible idea.
Well, they don't want to get involved with this because it's a massive loss. It's no benefit in it for them, and potentially massive losses.
The authors of the proposal called it virtual crocodile clips.
Yeah. Just I like the comments where it says government shouldn't spy on people. That's the businesses of the tech industry.
That's true.
That's the man's capitalism's job.
Point. Yeah.
We don't need the competition.
The GCHQ's ghost proposal, wrote the companies, completely undermines the trust relationship we have with our customers and the authentication
Facebook is
process.
listed.
Yeah, we trust. We trust. They trust us. They trust us.
I mean, if you try this with something like Signal, then they'll tell the intelligence agencies to get stuffed, which is why
What's happening in Australia? Because that is the law.
They've passed the law. It was a marvellous quote from some Australian minister who, with any luck, is out of a job now. But he was like, the laws of mathematics may be what they be, but the laws of Australia...
That was the Prime Minister said that.
Just like... But they passed this law. And now, officially, if law enforcement, if you're using any kind of communication service in Australia at the moment, then law enforcement can come to you and say, we need access to this content, make it happen. And it hasn't been tested in law yet, but it's going to be.
And this is the same country that's like, please, no, people have rights not to have unwanted email in their inbox.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
truly. Expecting consistency.
A little word of advice for our Australian listeners. Do not use the public Wi-Fi at McDonald's or Westfield. because under the new encryption legislation, the police
have
can
to eat incredibly unhealthy food.
police can compel those Wi-Fi providers to turn over information about people using their open Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I mean, this is what's coming down the line, and I think particularly worrying in America is that we've now got. I mean, this will be fought all the way by I think people like CDT and the EFF and that sort of thing, but with the makeup of the Supreme Court as it stands at the moment, and with two of the Supremes who are actually strongest on privilege on privacy and security in their 80s, the next 10, 20, 30 years is going to be really, really difficult unless, there's some serious public education and public demand going through.
And we're having discussions going back to Huawei about they could be spying, they could be listening in. And we're losing moral ground here by not speaking out wherever it happens or wherever it could happen around the world. And once again, it's aiming at companies and not what is the thing that is causing the biggest threat. And just surveillance against the population, no matter if it's in Asia or if it's in Australia, is still something that can go horribly awry.
Well, we've habituated people to surveillance as a consumer feature, though. I mean, look at what smart homes are, or look at the expectation that we've trained people to with web browsers, where we've now got people clicking accept on cookies because they think, it's perfectly reasonable for any company to monitor what I do online, and in return, I don't have to deal with a bunch of pop-ups on a web screen.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the shrewdest things that people have done over the last 20 years is normalize folks to the idea that surveillance is a fun perk of modern life and makes things more convenient for you. And in a way, mobile devices, and again, things like my watch, only make it much more so because we've voluntarily bought the instruments that allow everybody to keep tabs on us and erode our privacy.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I think also, this coming back to what you were saying about Huawei, it's if the US is going to start lobbing around accusations of backdoor kit and that sort of thing, it's a very thin glass house to be lobbing bricks like that around in. Because the US has been doing this since the 1950s with the crypto AG stuff and with in terms of the dual curve elliptical stuff. This is common knowledge, and simply saying, well, the Chinese are going to do it. Honestly, with the political situation in this country at the moment, I think there are going to be a lot of countries overseas looking. Who's looking more sane and stable at the moment, China or the US? Who would we rather have backdoors from?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Same with Wireshark, not Wireshark, but the Stingrays.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of technology here where people, when they find out about it, they're trying to change the laws. And so if it's legal here, we should speak out everywhere.
Yeah. San Francisco's actually been very good on that. They just passed this, I think it was a couple of weeks ago. If you're going to use a Stingray or any kind of interception device within San Francisco city limits, the police actually have to detail to the committee, to elected officials, what they're using and what they're using it for. Because at the moment, it's Wild West out there. People are just the police are using Stingrays.
Stingrays are hardware that impersonate a cell phone site. And they can intercept your traffic. Your phone will gladly join them and become a man.
I was actually really surprised to see that as a plot point on the season finale for Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, really?
It was, it was a two-parter. And if you had told me that 1/3 of the Lonely Island was going to be...
That's pretty funny.
was going to be on a TV show
getting woke.
that protested the use of these devices in policing in New York City. Like that was literally the two-parter, was taking down top brass in the fictional New York City police.
Yeah.
For
San Francisco also just passed a bill against face recognition. In fact, that was if you saw in the promo, Brian Hofer, who was on Triangulation on Friday, was the advocate who got that law passed. It's a great, fascinating.
No, it's a great bit of work.
Yeah. But what's unnerving though is that we're getting such a patchwork now, where some people have more rights in some parts of this country, digitally speaking, than they do in other parts of this country. And how are we going to reconcile that over the long term?
All I know
we've
is
got sane politicians to look out for us.
Google Plus is still up.
Well, there you go.
That has to be what we call this episode.
Google is saying Gmail service has been restored for some users. We expect a resolution for all users in the near future. Please note, this time frame is an estimate and may change. But I do see lots of red dots on services, except, of course, for Google Plus, which we're so happy. Apparently, Google Plus uses no Google infrastructure at all. Oh, yeah, we're running that on Azure. Yeah. Our show today brought to you by LastPass. Then we're going to get to the good news. I promise, happy news coming up next. LastPass is happy news for anybody. LastPass generates long, strong passwords and remembers them for you so you don't have to. All you have to do is remember your master password. And the minute I get home tonight, I'm going to use LastPass to change all those old passwords. They have a great security audit, which will automate it so I can go in and find all the places where I reused passwords and fix it. That's the kind of thing a great password manager should do. I am a huge LastPass fan. I know you will be too. And LastPass has a plan for everybody. LastPass Premium for individuals, LastPass Families. That's what we use at home. One of my features I love about LastPass Families, besides the fact that I can easily share family passwords with my wife. So we have a folder, the family. And anytime I put a password into that family folder, Lisa gets access to it. But she's also my emergency access contact. If anything should happen to me, she can have access to my password vault, which means she's not left out in the cold trying to figure out how to get into my bank account, my Facebook, and all of that. I think that's a really nice feature. LastPass is great for enterprises, too. If you have a team of 50 or fewer people, that's LastPass Teams. We use LastPass Enterprise here at TWiT, and that is awesome. 100-plus customizable policies to give you more flexibility and control when it comes to managing access for your organization. You pick the policies that are right for your business. For instance, we have master password requirements here. We enforce a minimum length, the number of digits, things like that. We also have admin to customized reporting so we can track changes over time, determine trends to continue to improve password security with seamless background sync, offline access, an app for almost every device. Actually, that's why I use LastPass. I have extensions for all the browsers. It works on iOS. It works for Android. It auto-fills on iOS and Android. That's nice, too. In fact, it's the first app I install when I get a new phone because then all the other apps I'm going to install, just the passwords just auto-filled in by LastPass. I just love it. And it's secure. Your password vault is trust no one encrypted everywhere except on device. LastPass doesn't have access to it. Only you do. LastPass. Join over 13.5 million people who signed up for LastPass and are loving and trusting it. It's my choice. It's what you should use, what we use here at TWiT. If you want to know more, go to lastpass.com/TWiT to find out how they can help you. lastpass.com/TWiT. They're nice guys, too. Nice guys and gals. I really like the LastPass team. lastpass.com/TWiT. Thank you, LastPass, for supporting TWiT. Thank you, TWiT listener, for supporting us by using lastpass.com/TWiT. All right, good news. You want some good news? Happy news. I'll find some. Well, this was less happy news. Did you see Wikipedia's story about North Face defacing?
Oh, yeah. This was maximum scumminess. It was basically an ad agency noticed that if you Google search for a landscape, then generally the first couple of images come from Wikipedia. So they thought, aha, I've got an idea. Why don't we go to our client, in this case, overpriced tap manufacturer North Face, and say, right, we'll do some lovely pictures of these landscapes, have someone with your logo in the background, stick it up onto Wikipedia, and then you'll get lots of brand recognition in Google searches. And instead of somebody saying, well, hang on, that means spamming a public interest group with advertising images, they went, great. In fact, let's make a video about how we did it.
They put a promotional video on YouTube. Here was the title. How can a brand be the first on Google without paying anything for it? Abuse Wikipedia. It's a no-brainer.
The sheer hubris of it was just painful.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think it was Adweek picked it up, we picked it up, and the video was taken down within minutes of
They falsely claimed that Wikipedia helped them. They did not.
And Wikipedia came back with an epic
furious
burn.
Yeah. Yeah. Shame on you, North Face. Shame on Leo Burnett, the ad agency who came up with this. This is the same as when Burger King modified their Wikipedia entry for the Whopper, and then in an ad gave the Google Assistant a command to talk about the Whopper, because since they knew Google Assistant took Wikipedia's copy, they put an ad on Wikipedia. I don't know how these guys
this is a
punish
great
them.
Example of the perils of hijacking third-party systems and violating trust. There need to be consequences beyond bad PR.
Well, the bad PR consequence is pretty serious.
But the thing is you can no longer trust. Like if you know that if you're, hey Alexa, tell me about Burger King, and Alexa effectively reads you an ad thanks to something Burger King did.
But that happens on. Go to the Donald Trump entry on Wikipedia.
But
to watch.
My point is that's a violation of trust across several systems.
Yeah,
but
it's
Wikipedia has very good systems. Those editors go in, they fixed it. They fixed it here. They immediately told the world, and I think North Face got a big egg on their face. For
it. I mean,
but it's going to be gone. Number one, that story's going to be off people's radar in a matter of days, if not already. And number two, it's not like there's going to be any lasting awareness on the part of people who do use voice-activated search to answer questions, or who do use Wikipedia to realize how vulnerable either one of these systems are to misinformation for the purposes of brand recognition.
So they apologized to the Register.
They apologized to a lot of people when it
they said we're not going to do it.
And they made a big donation to Wikipedia.
Good.
Oh, wait, nope.
They didn't.
No. Do that.
Bastards.
Wikipedia, though, did say, actually, though, some of the pictures are very pretty, so once you scrubbed all your logos out of everything, then we'll carry on using them, thanks. But just,
I mean, if I'm their rival Patagonia, basically my next move is to put up billboards saying we don't mess with your free internet, and just like keep reminding people what North Face did. Like, I feel like this is an opportunity that North Face has just handed to REI and Patagonia and all of the other people at the outdoor.
I think they may have learned the lesson that this does not end.
No, what I'm saying is Patagonia could be like, unlike some people, we don't need to edit Wikipedia.
They should shame them.
Seriously, just keep it in people's minds and associate it with. But
I mean, you kind of expect scummy ideas from advertising agencies, but to think that nobody at North Face actually said, you know what, this might backfire, and then instead just went and boasted about it.
No, but the tech story here is if you have an assistant like Siri or Alexa or Google Assistant that's using something like Wikipedia when you make a voice inquiry, like Wikipedia, who is Marie Curie? And it comes back with, well, Marie Curie happened to discover a couple elements, and more importantly, she's known for not wearing a lead-lined apron like this that you can run. I mean, this is a vulnerability in a system of education and information.
But the sad part is they expect some of these companies expect backlash, and they use that as amplification. Like if you look at IHOB. Or IHOP.
Oh, when they were talking about changing that,
and they're doing it again. Yeah. They're saying they're renaming themselves to IHOP.
Back to IHOP.
Yes, and there's going to be another announcement. It's just the bad press is part of the cycle.
Arby's Twitter. Yeah. Have you seen Nihilist Arby's Twitter? It's like one of my favorites.
Oh yes, but also I mean the same thing happened with Heinz, because in the UK we have this stuff called salad cream, which is kind of like mayonnaise but not.
Yeah.
It's
salad cream.
It's kind of like faux mayonnaise-ish. And there was a couple of years ago they were just like, we're going to ban it. Heinz said, that's it. When no one's buying salad cream anymore, bloody millennials, we're going to shut it down. And then there was huge PR campaign about bring back salad cream, and it was all marketing. You know, they never intended to take out salad cream, so it was just like,
I don't know what salad cream is, but I think they should cancel it immediately. I vote to kill salad cream. Okay.
Yeah.
If you had any messages on BlackBerry Messenger, I hope you saved them because it's gone as of yesterday, or it's Friday, I guess. BBM.
Yeah.
We loved BBM, right? We all loved BBM back in the day.
Back in the day when it was good, yeah. I mean, it's and then we found out that they were willingly backdooring it for the Indian government. But I mean, what is left now for BlackBerry? Is it basically sit on some patents?
They own QNX.
Oh well,
they own a real-time operating system. They're sitting there making hay while the sun shines.
I've heard they were talking about doing their own sort of specific secure communications, but I think that ship sailed.
No, I think
they have BlackBerry Enterprise. But that's about it.
Yeah, I think QNX is the future.
They've kind of pivoted into like we were talking earlier about bring your own device management for enterprise.
Oh, interesting.
So they sell an enterprise server where they can control all these other iOS and Android devices from other manufacturers, where they're trying to make money.
Yeah,
well, I could get a little salad cream in my life for only £1.55.
Oh, they have it at my local grocery store.
They have salad cream.
They have it in the ethnic foods aisle.
I know. One of the things I love being an immigrant to this country,
it's the opposite of ethnic food.
To get chocolate hot dogs.
No, I'm always really amused at how it's one aisle where you've got your fish sauce and you've got your pozole.
What's it taste like?
And then you've got salad cream.
It's kind of like a slightly sweet vinegary mayonnaise that's more gloopy.
So it's kind of like
you
a
know how
base
to
for
sell,
Tariffs.
boy.
Aioli?
Yeah. Tartar
Yeah.
sauce?
Yeah, maybe.
It's similar to tartar sauce, but not quite
But
as
no lumps.
stringent.
No pickles.
Without the lumps, yeah.
But yeah, it's sounded. I will admit that
If you're on video, you should watch his face as he's describing this thing.
it's a shameful thing to admit, but I do love post-Christmas dinner having a turkey, lettuce, and salad. And salad and,
We do that
sour
with
cream
Russian
sandwich.
dressing here in America.
Yeah, it's just. It's the one time of the year I'll eat it, but you're right. It's a little.
You say that with
shaming.
shame, yeah.
Congratulations to T-Series. The battle is over. T-Series versus PewDiePie. T-Series, the first YouTube channel to hit 100 million subscribers. It's I think it's an Indian Bollywood channel.
Maybe it's PewDiePie's attacking Google.
No, I just like the idea of
Definitely was in a rush to get to that 100
So it's
million.
pronounced PewDiePie and not PewDiePie.
I don't know. I
PewDiePie.
pronounce it useless waste of flesh and
PewDiePie.
organs.
You call
but,
it
it's-
PewDiePie?
It was originally like a game channel where he shared us as Pew Die. You know, that's what it was.
That's where it comes from.
No, in the
I don't know, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's PewDiePie.
No, probably not. I've never seen it. I've never watched it.
PewDiePie.
Just read about his terrible stations.
PewDiePie like Cutie Pie.
Wow. No, because
It is pew, 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 I'm sure, but
Yeah.
I don't know about the die part.
No, the only thing I know about that site is that a lot of people who do terrible things seem to really like him. So
PewDiePie called for the battle to end last month. He said it's been a hateful race, and that's basically him giving up. And there we go. Here it is. You want to watch T-Series hitting 1 billion, or whatever it is, 100 million subscribers?
Keep this short and simple. Congratulations, T-Series, the first YouTube channel to reach 100 million subscribers.
This guy looks like he eats salad cream. I don't know who he is.
it's like a Garth
Yeah.
Ennis.
You can
Yeah.
think of it.
That means YouTube is
March
up.
the
That you're
30th.
playing
This is really typical. Somebody else,
means
a
it took
completely
them
independent third party, has made a YouTube video and has millions of hits.
You've just described the entire YouTube ecosystem.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
All right. Last story, but it's the happiest story of all.
Can I add some context, though?
Oh, yes.
T-Series is the equivalent of Disney in India.
In India.
Yeah.
So that's why it's
Pretty
so
big
massive. It's because it's a major conglomerate of entertainment there.
Oh, I do love me some.
Coming this summer, unfortunately, I'm handing in my Tesla in a month. I'm hoping I will get it. Cuphead will be launching on Teslas this summer.
What
I already
fresh
have
hell.
great Atari games on my Tesla. I don't think you should play Cuphead while you're driving.
Wow.
It will be just the first area of Cuphead, the world's most difficult game. I am actually a Cuphead fanatic. I have no idea why Tesla is putting this on their car, except maybe to show off the power of the computing platform.
I was going to say this thing called distracted driving.
Yeah.
They don't let you play while you're driving.
Oh right, okay.
They're just you sit.
So you buy an $80,000 car just to sit there and
You
play.
play it while you're at the charging station waiting to fill up.
That makes
okay.
sense, actually. Yeah.
There's the use, right? Oh, in that case, it's a key and essential feature.
Model
Yes.
3, Model S, and Model X vehicles will get Cuphead on their 17-inch screen.
Why not do something good like the original Elite, or
This
it's
is a
even
good
Donkey
game.
Kong?
That's a good game. I like Cuphead. I'm a Cuphead fan.
Okay.
Very hard. Very, very hard.
I'm surprised they don't have SETI for the Tesla.
Wouldn't that be cool to devote some of those CPU cycles to finding extraterrestrial
Yeah.
intelligence? You know what they'd find? They'd find the guy riding the Tesla Roadster up there.
Yeah.
I was watching a documentary from a YouTube guy that I follow, and he drove the Model X from, I think it was LA to someplace inland, and he's charging this thing up in RV parks. I had no idea you could do that. You know? It takes 8 hours, but
Yeah, you could plug it into the wall if you want.
yeah, but he sort of mapped out. Okay, they've got a 50-volt one here and a
if you have a
25
higher
volt
voltage.
one
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's fascinating how this is going.
So let's just wrap up the show with a quick check to see how it's going for Google. It looks like Gmail's coming back, YouTube's coming back. So it was really during this show only that we actually paid Google significant amounts of money to bring down the internet so that everybody would tune in Twit. My evil plan has succeeded. And yes, Google Plus is still up and running. Thank you so much, Wesley Faulkner. Good luck in finding, there's his LinkedIn. finding new fans at linkedin.com/Wesley83. That's his Twitter handle, too, Wesley83. Wesley Faulkner, we love having you on. It's great to have you in studio.
And I'll be at DevRelCon Thursday and Friday this week. So if you're at DevRelCon, come say hi.
Okay.
DevRel is developer relations?
Yeah, developer relations.
And that's your special skill, developer relations. DevRelCon. Oh, cool. All right. Come see him.
Say hi.
Thank you, Ms. Schmeiser. Lisa Schmeiser is editor at IT Pro Today at itprotoday.com.
Yes.
At LSCHMEISER on the Twitter. Anything you want to plug?
No, not right now. None other than our site.
Just your site.
Visit.
Just a good site.
Yeah.
And, of course, from the register.co.uk, everybody's favorite Ian Thompson.
Well, I can think of a few people who I'm not.
That's a sign you're doing your job.
Exactly.
That's right. Make enemies while the sun shines.
Yeah.
Ian, anything you want to plug?
Actually, I'm going away for
going to Britain?
in a week's time. I'm going back to the old country for a couple of
Will
weeks.
you have a chance to vote in the Brexit redo?
I'm not allowed to vote. I'm not allowed to vote in the UK anymore.
Here.
I've been here. No, I left the country so long ago. I am no longer allowed to vote in its elections, and I can't vote here because I'm an immigrant. And despite what some people tell you, immigrants really can't vote in this country.
Just tell me what you want to vote for. I'll do it for you.
I want a magic unicorn. Which
wouldn't we all? We do Twit every Sunday afternoon, usually around 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. That is 21:30 UTC. You could tune in at twit.tv/live as long as YouTube's up. We have Twitch, though. We have Mixer. We have Ustream. There's other ways you can watch. You can also listen live thanks to Spreaker. And who else? Spreaker and who else do we? We have a live stream, two live audio streams.
Icehouse?
I can't remember.
Tune in.
Tune in. That's it. Tune in and Spreaker. Sorry, Tune in. You can also go to the chat room at irc.twit.tv. That's where all the kids who are watching the show live hang in and hang out. If you want to be in studio, we had a great studio audience. All you have to do is email tickets at twit.tv. We'll make sure there's somewhere for you to sit. It's a good idea to email ahead of time, only because if I'm not here or the studio's not open, we don't want you to get turned away. So please email tickets at twit.tv.
One last plug, if I wouldn't mind. Sorry.
Please.
I want to say a big thank you to Standard Library. That's who actually paid for my flight out here. So thank you, Standard Library, for bringing me to Petaluma.
Thank you. What is Standard Library?
They've shown me some things that I can't talk about, but right now they allow you to make really easy using at the API level. They paste together things for Slack and for Slack rooms.
Oh, neat.
So you don't actually need to be a developer to make tools that you need to keep your team informed.
Nice.
So it's very low lift in order to get some really cool functionality.
stdlib.com. Cool. Well, thank them.
Yes.
I appreciate them.
Thank you, Standard Library.
Bring you to us. Thanks, too, to Michael from Durham and Lonnie and Alex. Lonnie's from Deerfield. Alex is from Cupertino. To Seth in Fort Lauderdale. Blake from San Jose, Eric and Yvonne. I'm sorry, Yvonne. I hope it wasn't too painful. They're from Cincinnati. Uri, who's from Israel. Thank you, Uri. James from London. We had visitors from all over. It was really nice to have you here. Thanks to all of you for listening. If you want to get downloadable versions, twit.tv, the website has all of our shows. You can also subscribe. And in fact, that's the best thing to do in your favorite podcast application. We always have Ian in the same shirt, just for continuity's sake.
No, I won it twice on the... I'm dreadfully embarrassed.
It's a nice shirt.
Oh, it's a nice shirt. Okay. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Another Twit is in the can.
Yeah.
Go Warriors! And Raptors. Bye-bye.
Doing the twit. All right. Doing the twit, baby. Doing the twit. All right. Doing the twit.
With no hidden fees for egress or API requests. Calculate your savings and try Wasabi with free unlimited storage for a month at wasabi.co. Hey, where you go? Hey, hold on. Oh.
Hold on, Leo. All the cameras are dead.
Wait a minute.
And the table's going up.
What the hell?
We need to redo that wasabi. All right. Cameras are back.
I didn't know it could do that, and now that I know we have two in concert, I say that for the
All right, let me try that again. Take two.